I am so pleased to be able to bring you Dr. Wright, who I went to hear his presentation at A4M last year, and I said, I'm seeing this guy myself. Because his level of history and depth is dramatic. I'm going to read his bio in a minute. But I just want to let you know that they are making it possible for you all to consult without having to fly over to the Tahoma Clinic in Washington.
No, thank you all very much for coming. I apologize we brought the lady with us from Seattle.
We have a
Flat tire.
Well, there's that. Yeah. And also, I also apologize for starting late here. It seems that we were driving in this inevitable long line of cars, and we're the only one that had the privilege to run over something on the street, which totally blew out the right front tire on our way here. And so there was the usual, the usual tow truck and the usual Uber drive and all that sort of thing. So I'm sorry, but that's how come we're late. So we'll try to make up for it here by maybe talking faster? No, probably not. It's probably going a little longer. Sorry about that, boy.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. Okay. Actually, all of this is really not hard if we get down to one basic thing. And that is that we are part of nature and creation, whether we like to believe in evolution, creation, I don't care, but we're part of nature's creation. And so are all our ancestors. So if we just copy what nature does, then we're least likely to get into trouble. Very much so. And of course, the way that healthcare is going right now, I'm sorry, but physicians want to put molecules into everyone's bodies and they've never been found on planet Earth. They're extraterrestrial space alien molecules. And they don't belong in your bodies. I'm sure, if you ever happen to watch TV, see the inevitable commercials about all the bad stuff this will do to you. All that. Yes, that's not to say that nature is harmless, excuse me. There are deaths from natural things, such as drowning in water. Eating too much arsenic, that sort of stuff. But still, the chances are a lot less. So if we just remember, does that copy nature? I think we won't want to go down that path if it doesn't. If it does, let's make sure it's the safe path. That's also important. Okay, so yes, biological hormones are one thing I'm going to go over, but we're also going to throw in here and there some other things we can do to keep ourselves as healthy as we possibly can for as long as is possible. Not possible live forever, is it? No, but it is possible to live longer, healthier, that's for sure. All right, now, folks get the idea that biological hormones were first used at the Hale Clinic in the early 1980s. And indeed they were. And I'll tell you how they got there. It wasn't me being smart, it was some lady pointing out the obvious. But actually biological hormones were first used, as far as we know, on planet Earth in the year 1050. I'm not kidding. In China. No kidding. Now, if one wants a reference on that, one looks up a book by Joseph Needham, but spelled pronounced Needham, called Science and Civilization in China. It's a 5-volume set. Oh. And my colleague's afraid our house is going to fall down. I'm serious. Because I have too many books on the second floor. She worries about that from time to time, so I made sure to put some in the basement. It's a 5-volume set. And in one of those volumes, there is a 35-page chapter called Chronology. Now, we all know what proto means. It just means the precursor of. And then we have endocrinology. I'm a doctor, he's a PhD doctor, know this. My goodness, he just wrote his book about 20, 30 years ago. Well, oddly enough, it helped that Dr. Needham was a flaming communist. No kidding. And he was buddies with Mao Zedong. I don't know why anybody wants to be buddies with Mao Zedong, considering what he did to the Chinese people. But Needham had free access all over China because he was buddies with Mao. And very fortunately, his wife was from China. He spoke Chinese and read Chinese and everything. So they went all around China reading all these ancient manuscripts and so forth. And they came across some that recorded Bioidentical hormone replacement. They didn't call it that in the year 1050. And this lasted from the year 1050 to the mid-1800s. Now what did they do? They did an even better job than we're doing. We're doing a better job than we're capable of doing. Why? Wow, did they copy nature? What did they do? Well, let's see. The Taoist priests, who were in charge of the health of the court and so forth, talked to the emperor, and the emperor decreed that there shall be one restroom over here for all the women and one restroom over there for all the men. And we will have these shallow troughs in each of the restrooms, throughout the restroom. And all the young ladies between 18 and 25 or so, about that age, you know, the ones with the most hormones in them, would go in this restroom and urinate over there. And all the young men would go over here. And when the troughs filled up, okay, we let the whole thing evaporate, and you don't want to be downwind of that place when it's evaporated, do you? No. Okay, so they let it evaporate. Then what? The interns, and the interns always get to do this dirty job. If you've ever been an intern anywhere, you know they always get to do this step work, as it's called. They took gums and resins and rolled them through the troughs.
Took what?
Gums and resins. And rolled them through the troughs so they would pick up the gums and resins. And then the ones from the ladies' room got to the empress and her buddies. And the one from the young men's room went to the emperor and his buddies. And everybody felt better. And imagine this, there was every hormone that you'd find in a young human body in there. There's even hormones we can't get that are in there. We can't get them for a lot of reasons. Mostly because the public servants at a certain federal agency won't allow them into our country. You know, they're totally natural. I'll go on about that a little bit later. But there's everything that was in the young woman's or young man's body that went into these old people. And, oh my goodness, they felt better. So that is the origin of bioidentical hormones as far as we know. Now somebody maybe several eons ago did something similar, but we don't know about that. But we do have it documented in Science and Civilization in China by Professor Yun. So, I think the first name is Joseph, if you want to know about it. I don't know if you get books anymore. Don't use bookstores, something like that. Alright, so, what happened in 1982 is about the whole thing we started, because it had been, basically, according to Dr. Nita, it had been gone since the early 1800s. No more of that. Who knows why? Because it wasn't around anymore. What happened is a woman came on into the office, and she tells me about her menopausal symptoms, and says, I want some natural hormones, please. Look at this. So, I started to write her prescription. I think she was a teacher because she could read upside down. And she read what I was writing, and she says, I want natural hormones. And I said, well, yeah, those are natural. And so she kind of sat back in the chair and said, do I look like a horse? Now, I knew better than to answer that question. I didn't answer. She says, look, I want what was in my body when I was 33. That's what I want. I said, well, gee, you know, there's only one hormone that's on the market presently. It's called estradiol. And there are many other estrogens, and there's progesterone, and all that stuff. And the other estrogens, we can't get them. And progesterone, they were still at that time giving people this phony progesterone called hydroxyprogesterone, as you probably know, which was found to be the carcinogen in women's health study.
When you see a name of a new thing, would you please slow down so that I can...
Oh, so which one? Which one?
Oh, the last, all of them. When you do the fast, clinical words, I don't know what particular what is great, because I really didn't understand.
Okay. Well, where do we need to go dial back to?
No, that's fine. You can go forward.
Oh, okay.
If you can please sit down when you enunciate this difficult word.
Thank you. Well, I think I'll go back to what I was saying, that I was telling this lady that the only estrogen that was available at that time was called estradiol.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, and all the other things that were available, it was either the stuff in the horse, that was the one that was called Premarin, And then this other one called Provera, which was commonly, yeah, like the lady named, like one favorite of the lady named Vera. Oh, Provera. Okay. And it has another long technical name, but that also is an artificial progesterone. It's never been found on the planet before. And yet it was being used, and we all know the reason it was being used. It was a patent on something that's never been found on the planet before. Everybody knows that. All right.
I went through menopause, never had a hot flash. Of course, there are women who don't take bioidentical hormones who never have a hot flash, but they're rare. And as I grew older, and I'm telling you this vulnerable stuff, it's not being filmed. I just want to let you know. I started noticing the number of orgasms I had in intercourse going down with each decade.
I had to call Ed Thorpe at Quick's Pharmacy in Vancouver, British Columbia again, because he was the only one who could source aldosterone. Yeah, couldn't get it in the United States. Mm-hmm. So Ed was able to find it, put a little capsules. This is one that's swallowed instead of rubbed on or whatever. And this guy took it. Yes, sir.
With the aldosterone here, you can answer to 54%. How much of that is, how much correlates with how long you've had the hearing loss? And what about tinnitus?
It doesn't help tinnitus much, but it doesn't matter how long you've had the hearing loss. It's about 54% if you start low. So this engineer was definitely low. He took it, his hearing came back on that one ear. The other ear was kind of permanently deaf already before he came in. His hearing came back in one ear. Well, he's an engineer, right? He wanted to prove it worked. So he quit taking it. His hearing went down again. Oh, he took the aldosterone again. His hearing came back. He's still an engineer. Then he went to go off it again. Now, this part, he told me, his wife said, I wasn't there. But his wife, according to the engineer, said, dear, I'm not going to live with a deaf man, a totally deaf man, if it can be prevented. She says, you quit taking aldosterone and I'm going to consider divorcing you. So, anyway, he has been taking aldosterone since 2004. He was also an engineer and tried taking more, and I told him, do not take more unless you measure it in your urine and make sure it's in the normal human range. And he went above the human range. So I had to tell him to stop. And he did, thank goodness. He went back and stayed in range, and it's been 14 years now, and he still has hearing in that ear. Yes, ma'am.
I do work professionally with deaf people, and I'm wondering if some like rubella and other reasons that people are born deaf, from serious illness in utero, if that zaps that testosterone out of their body, and I wonder if that would work with profoundly deaf or...
There's no way of knowing what we have to do. What we do is be careful. Here's the range that is normally in human bodies. So let's make sure that the person never goes outside that range, and let's try and see what happens. And again, the latest study statistics were about 54%, but the aldosterone had to be low to start with.
And I'm sure that I have never heard any kind of research like that, so that's a whole new ballgame right there.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, it's Dennis Trune, Trune. You can look that up in PubMed. Trune, Trune. You put in Trune D into your PubMed search, and you'll find it. Now, what's so sad is that Trune is the only one who has researched it, and that was years ago. That was late 1990s. And nobody's followed up on that, but they're perfectly happy to sell their hearing aid.
Yep.
How do you spell his name? True?
Trune.
Okay, and then the other thing is I contemplated using aldosterone, but I was high normal on my blood pressure, and I have a memory that aldosterone can raise blood pressure, so I didn't take it.
Okay, one of the things, and everybody heard her, one of the
Did you
things...
hear me? Did I say that?
Okay.
Blood pressure.
One of the things that aldosterone does is it helps to retain salt in the body. What happens if we retain salt and we have a tendency to high blood pressure? Pressure might go up. However, we do find that there are a fair number of people who have a low aldosterone. And I'm not at all scared of having them retain a normal amount of salt. I just am scared of having them retain a high amount of salt. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We are loud enough so that everybody can hear. Oh, did you finish? Your question?
Can we look at the possibility of retaining memory also with this stuff? Because I'm losing my memory and I just want to see.
Okay, well, let me go back to something I should have started with.
Yeah.
You started to say what hormones to test for a man in the urine.
Yes.
And you went from testosterone, DHA, oxytocin, aldosterone, thyroid.
Cortisol, cortisone.
All of those you test
Yes,
in
we
the
do.
urine.
The first time. Now, the person's perfectly normal on some of them,
Then
and we're not worried, then we can leave that
then
part
you
out.
also test, you started out mentioning estradiol and.
Well, that's tested in men too. And that is so
Right.
super important. I'll get to that in
But you test for all of those, both estradiol and estradiol.
and estrone and estradiol and estriol. And just to tantalize the women a little, there's an exceptionally potent anti-carcinogenic estrogen called 2-methoxyestradiol. Exceptionally potent. And I'll get on to that one
Can
later.
you tell us how to get this test at some point?
Well, how to get the test. One puts into one search engine Meridian Valley Laboratory. Meridian Valley Laboratory. And in Washington anyway, Washington is one of 27 states where people can actually order their own lab test if they feel like it. And they don't have to have a doctor's, or a note from mother, I should say. They don't have to have a note from mother to get a lab test done. I don't know about Hawaii because since there's 27 of those states.
No, good.
No.
California?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now let's see. What was that question you asked me?
Memory.
There you go, thank you. See, my memory isn't working. Okay.
This you remember.
I remember. Let's share our issues. It helps everybody here, all right?
Did she say she remembered?
I thought that was a problem.
Okay, well, because you got a little into this in your opening statement, I'll go a little bit there. What did the guy say who had the United States' first successful penis transplant operation?
I'm dying to hear.
There actually was reported 2 years ago a penis transplant operation to some guy who lost his in an accident. But what did he say?
I don't know.
I'm glad those doctors remembered me. Well, she opened the door. And so did she. Okay. Anyway, some research done in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. I should have started with this because this is the most important reason there is for women to use estrogens and men to use testosterone. The most important reason there is was found in the late 90s and early 1900s, early 2000s. Okay, what is that very important reason? So, what did the researchers do? They took brain cells from people who died of trauma and were otherwise healthy and had no known neurologic disease. Let's say died of a car wreck or something like that. They took the brain cells from men and they put them in these culture dishes over here, and they took the brain cells from the women and put them in culture dishes over here, and they made sure to keep them alive with everything that's in a normal brain surrounding the brain cells, all the nutrients, all the things that's needed, except for one thing, the estrogen and testosterone. All right, and then they observed under the microscope how rapidly all the garbage accumulates that usually accumulates in Alzheimer's disease. And that garbage is called your fibrillary tangle, tau protein, beta amyloid. You probably know those terms, but if you don't, it's the garbage that accumulates inside of cells when we're getting Alzheimer's. Beta amyloid, yes. Okay. And the beta amyloid accumulated at a certain rate in these women's brain cells and in those men's brain cells. Then what they did was to take what's called a physiologic dose of estrogen. What does physiologic mean? It means the amount of estrogen that actually is normally present in there. And they took a physiologic dose of testosterone and put it in with the male brain cells. That's the amount that's normally present there, not an overdose, not an underdose. And they observed the accumulation of all that garbage went down by 80%. 80%.
Wow.
Yeah. Now they even figured out how that happens. It seems that is indeed intracellular garbage, these things I named. Intracellular brain cell garbage. And in young people, there's a series of enzymes. It gets rid of the garbage, gets rid of the garbage. You've got your cleanup crew every day. Exactly. And as we get older, the cleanup crew is less and less active. And that's why there's more women with Alzheimer's than men. Well, because she doesn't have her estrogen for menopause, whereas the guy's testosterone goes down much more slowly, and the estrogen and the testosterone are the head of the janitorial crew, basically. And they're just telling the janitors, get to work, get that garbage out of here. And it takes the estrogen for women, and it's the estradiol specifically, that's why we have to have some estradiol. And the testosterone for men, and it helps, it doesn't stop the accumulation entirely, but it slows it way to blink down. And that is the most important reason we could be thinking of for taking these hormones until 417 years old and don't care anymore, or whatever it is. Because if we don't keep our minds, what else matters?
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I started from what you said is on the trauma membranes that they worked on, is that once they actually put the estradiol in, or the testosterone, it started to clean up, so it doesn't really matter how late it is you're starting.
Well, if you're totally clogged, they didn't let them get totally clogged, so I don't know about that.
But I mean, for those of us in the room.
Yes, it doesn't matter how late you're starting your estrogens. However, there is one thing. A lot of doctors are saying for a while that if it's been more than 30, 40 years past menopause, you shouldn't start taking estrogens, they won't work. Okay, that is wrong. Some other doctors found that if they used a patent medicine, and I don't think there's an excuse for this, but that's what they did. They used a patent medicine called an anticholinergic, and all that means is there's a neurotransmitter in the brain called acetylcholine. And acetylcholine builds up, breaks down like everything else builds up and breaks down. Well, what they did was they used a patent medicine that's an acetylcholine breakdown inhibitor. So it wouldn't break down as easily. And after the women had been on that, and don't go on this stuff, there's a better way of doing it. After the women had been on the acetylcholinesterase inhibitor for a few months, now their brains responded to testosterone. Ooh, big deal, we can sell patent medicine. Oh, okay, well I thought, well geez, why didn't I just copy nature? Let's see, if we're inhibiting the breakdown of acetylcholine, that means we have more. Why don't we just make more? And right there in the biochemistry textbooks, it tells you how to make more acetylcholine. Our bodies take choline, which you can find in the International Food Store, and they use, let's see, thiamine, vitamin B1, pantothenic acid, vitamin B5, and a little smidge of manganese. And what do you know? The body makes more choline, more acetylcholine. So I just have the ladies do that. I have them use the cholinergically building natural substances, choline, thiamine, pantothenic acid, and manganese, just a little bit of manganese. And give that a few months, and now she'll respond to estrogen just fine, thank you. And we don't need to use the patent
I
medicine.
just made one comment on this.
Please.
All right. Preserving my brain is my number one goal.
Yay!
Okay? And when I turned 52, I read a book called Menopause in the Mind and learned about verbal slips that women have and, memory issues and word finding issues and all this sort of thing. And that's the last thing I wanted. And so I studied this book, and what I discovered is when they took a neuron from a female, and I'm going to just drop the mic. When they took a neuron from a female and they grew it in a petri dish in an estrogen-enriched environment, and then another one in a non-estrogen-rich environment, the number of synapses in the estrogen-rich was like this, and in the estrogen-deficient, like this, all right? And that is the prime reason that I'm taking bioidentical hormones. And So not only does it create the garbage, you know, the hormones to remove it, but the number of synapses, and when you combine it with lifelong learning, that's really good. And I have an APOE4 gene, which gives me one gene heterozygous for late onset Alzheimer's, so I'm very committed to my brain health. That's another gene I recommend you test. Just so you know, and our genes are not our destiny. Okay, our genes are our opportunity to know who we are, to know what our cards are that we play. And you know, I've been playing chess with this gene for a long time and doing well. You know, so I just want to let you know, I haven't noticed ever a senior moment. I started, and when I was lower on my dosages, I started having some slips. Now I, you know, raised it to 0.1 estradiol, and I will certainly learn about your estriol. So I just want to let you know that is the central reason why I'm passionate about this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other things that you said about acetylcholine, I want to integrate. And I feel so blessed to be here in this workshop, even learning things I don't know with all the study I've done.
We all learn stuff. We all learn stuff all the time. I say we all learn things all the time if we just stay aware.
Lifelong learning,
Yes. And by the way, if you're not using estriol,
no, I want to, you know, I'm going to connect with you. Yeah.
yes, ma'am, you have a
In
question?
regards to the chlorine, vitamin B1, and manganese, and whatever the acid was, is there any supplements that you can buy that you recommend?
Nobody makes one that way yet. You have to get them separately to get enough.
Can you tell us the dosage?
Why not? The choline is 3 grams a day until, it doesn't have to be this way forever, but for a few months, and then we can drop the doses down. Choline is 3 grams a day. Could be 1 gram 3 times a day. Could be all at once. Pantothenic acid, again, to start with, is 1 gram twice a day. The thiamine is 500 milligrams a day. And the manganese, for that one we have to keep low at about maybe 4 or 5 milligrams a day.
How much vitamin D1?
The B1 was thiamine, and that's 500.
Both 500, okay.
How often do you retest urine? How often do you retest your urine?
Well, that's got less to do with the acetylcholine and all, but it has to do with hormone testing. So, as far as how often we test the urine, if a woman's past menopause, there's no point doing a urine test on it before starting hormones, because she's not going to have any. She knows that. She's past hormones. So what we do is we start with conservative dose. And since 1982, I've learned what's conservative and what isn't. And so we start with a low dose. And then we'll say, please, during your second hormone cycle, not menstrual bleeding cycle, but hormone cycle. And the second part, when you're taking more progesterone to copy nature, during that second half of the second hormone cycle, then turn in the 24-urine test, and let's see if yours needs a tweak. And I'd say at least 40% of the time we need to tweak, and 60% of the time we got it right in the first place. So, but we don't know that right off. So a couple months later. Okay, I'm going to go somewhere. Oh, yes, yes, yes.
What about the MTHFR gene and utilization of methylated B vitamins? Or, you know, can you speak to that? Because some people have problems with that.
Okay, well, I'm going to speak to that in a different way.
Okay.
Folic acid is a molecule never found on planet Earth, just in case you didn't know that.
Folic acid doesn't exist?
Folic acid is never found on planet Earth before it was invented in Leadenhall Laboratories in 1943 in a test tube. And there's an entire review article of the history of folic acid in one of the British medical journals. You can find it. I'm sorry I've forgotten the author of that one. I can't remember 100,000 authors. But here's the history of folic acid. It was invented because folate, which is the natural molecule folate, breaks down very easily and rapidly. That's just the way nature is. If we have a beautiful organic garden out here, and I go pick a leaf, because remember foliage, I go pick a leaf, and I eat it right now, I get 95 to 100% of the folate by the time it gets down here. On the other side of things, if I live in Washington State, which I do most of the time, and we want lettuce, Of course, not the lettuce with the E. coli in it, just regular lettuce. We want lettuce from California. How long does it take to get to California from Washington State? Well, a professor at the University of Washington, and I call them the Universality because all universities know everything, don't they? Just ask the faculty. They know everything. A professor there was able to show that after just 1 day from being picked, 50% of the folate's gone. This is gone. It degrades with just having been picked and being away from the plant. And if light shines on it, or if it's in more than a little bit of cool temperature, or more than a little bit of warm temperature, folate degrades very rapidly. So, that's plain folate. Now, later laboratories found that if they made an artificial form, this stuff is actually an artificial form, not found on planet Earth, called folic acid, that most people's bodies, about 85%, can metabolize that into folate, but about 10 to 15% can't. Now, here's the problem with that. Do you know? Anybody? I can metabolize folic acid into folate? Well, if you don't know, don't take the blanket stuff. Why? Because in those 10 to 15%, the folic acid builds up and builds up and builds up and is associated with premature memory loss. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you find out whether you're on that?
Huh?
How do you find out if you're in 10-15%?
Oh, there's some DNA test, and I'm not an expert on DNA testing. I'm sorry. Well, one can also just check on...
Life extension has that, and going to California. I mean, I don't know. Life Extension magazine lets you order your own tests.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know which doctors here are familiar with MTHFR and not, and people who have distortions in that gene profile are much more likely to also have allergies.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting to munch your stuff straight out of the garden, and you don't know whether your folic acid responds, is there another way to go?
Of course. And the stuff is called methylfolate, and it's in all the natural food stores.
Methylated with B vitamins, you can get them in a bottle.
Yeah. And the methyl form, that one is quite harmless, thank you.
I won't build up because...
No.
Okay.
That's the folic acid that builds up as folic acid, not as something else, as folic acid. Okay, well, I really... Yes, ma'am.
Would you just speak for a moment about the idea that as humans, we naturally lose the hormones and we naturally do age that way.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it beneficial to replace that? It's just life extension, scientifically get to do that because we're smart? Or is there some detriment, and that's why people are afraid to do that, because there's repercussions of kind of going against what nature says take away when you get a certain age?
Mm-hmm.
Just speak to that for a moment.
Mm-hmm. So far, if we keep it within the range that our bodies are accustomed to, and that's the very, very key thing, if we keep it within the range we're accustomed to, nobody's found any detriment from it. In fact, there was actually a publication from the early 2000s that compared women who did take hormone replacement. Now, how they tested for it in those days was to put a tube up your nose, down your stomach, and pump your stomach out. And when I was in medical school, we got to team up and do that to each other. And measure the stomach acid. Now there's this device that Holly was telling me about that makes it so much simpler. But they did that back then, and it is accurate, no question. Now what they found is that by the time we all get to be 60, some 48% of women, 52% of women, the women outdo the men, 52% of women and 48% of men are not making optimal stomach acid anymore. When we were in our 20s, it was much lower. The women were around 5%, the men were practically zero. And it climbed with every decade until the 60s. And what do you know? Well, roughly 50-50 had sufficient acid to keep their digestion optimal, to keep them optimally healthy. And that's why I call it gastropause. Dr. Van Zandt didn't, but she gave us all the data. And then she did one other slightly sad comment. When people get in their 70s, funny thing, but the rate of stomach acid being low goes down to 40%. Why is that? Well, because the people have died off who are malnourished and have those problems before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'll be carrying on about gastropause a little bit too, because that will be a comic book as the guys here. Come on. Hmm? Yeah, did it for her. Okay. Oops.
And so I'm wondering, how serious is that in that way of deal, and how the biomedical hormones also come into play with the chemicals and with this acid flow. So I think
Oh, okay. Do you want me to mic that?
Yeah, I'm good here.
I'm happy to repeat it. I came here because I've known of Jonathan's work for 15 years for a mutual friend, John Morgentail. And my wife has intestinal bowel syndrome that's progressed through metaplasia and dysplasia. So my sense is that, and my instinct is that the biomimetic hormones are going to have a role in that. And I'm just so pleased that Jonathan and his wife have brought up graphically this issue of irritable bowel and the acidity and how it all relates. And I'm guessing the biomimetic hormones relate to several other systems in the body that can benefit. So I hope you can cover that.
All right, so I'm going to start with the testosterone because I promised everybody to do that. All right. Now, everyone knows, but I'll repeat it anyway, that testosterone declines much more rapidly with men than women. Unfortunately, it is declining more rapidly in the last 2 or 3 decades than it ever has. There are records, because doctors' offices and hospitals kept records in the 1940s and 1950s. And what was found back then is that the average guy didn't start to have his testosterone be low enough to worry about until he was 60 or maybe a little older than 60. And these days, we're seeing men in their late 30s and early 40s who are starting to worry about their testosterone because it's going down. And one of the key things is, yes, a man's body can make more testosterone, but why is it going down sooner? Well, everybody knows the answer to that. Herbicides, pesticides, chemicals, glyphosate, blah, 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 blah. Not to mention lead, cadmium, and other toxic metals that can drop testosterone. And the reason I mention that first is because until we get those the heck out of there, we're not going to be able to get our testosterone back. Seriously. It's as if we're standing in a tunnel under the street. Let's politely call it a tunnel rather than a sewer, all right? And we're trying to get out of there by lifting the manhole cover. But somebody's standing on the manhole cover. Are we ever going to get out? No. And what's standing on the testosterone cover are all of these toxins that are in the environment. And it's not just maybe anybody who reads National Geographic for a number of years finds that, oh my goodness, they're finding lead in the penguin fat in Antarctica. Excuse me? How many lead factories do they have in Antarctica? Oh, 0. It's just that the stuff blows around the planet. We get all the exhalations from China. Europe gets the exhalations from the United States. Russia gets the exhalations from Europe, and so forth. And with industrialization everywhere, it's just spread all over the planet. So the first thing a guy's got to do, if he's trying to get his own testosterone back, which is doable if you catch it early enough, once a guy starts using testosterone, he pretty much is stuck with using it for the rest of his life. If he doesn't mind that, that's fine. But testosterone, if we use more than a little, can suppress our own testosterone production. So we have to keep using it from the outside. So anyway, if we're trying to get the stuff back, one of the first things to do is called detox. Now, I'm willing to guess that a lot of people in this room are doing detoxification on purpose for that reason. Not just the testosterone reason, but just to get that garbage out of the system. Nobody had to pay attention to that in the 1800s, did they? Did they have the word organic in the 1800s? No, they didn't need the word organic. Everything was organic. But these days, well, you know that story. So, okay, believe it or not, the Church of Scientology actually paid for research along these lines. What they did was fund some research at the University of Southern California. And what was done is fat biopsies. Biopsy the fat, send it off to the laboratory, see how many toxins are in there. Okay, they did fat biopsies on a bunch of men. Okay. Then they have everybody do heavy sweating for 30 to 40 minutes, 30 episodes. Now this having been researched, yes, they did it once a day for a month. But the important thing is how many episodes do you do and for how long? I mean, every other day for 2 months too, it's the same thing. So anyway, they did the heavy sweating, 30 to 40 minutes, once a day for a month. And they biopsied the pad again. And what do you know, 2/3 of the toxins were gone. Seriously, that's a significant proportion. And if they just keep that up, then more and more of the toxins will start to disappear too. Now the trouble is, one does need to keep it up periodically because the toxins keep coming back. They're not going to go away. But, okay, heavy sweating. Let's see. On a different day, I can go lay on the beach and sweat, can't I? Yeah. Okay, so sunlight is a very good way to get that done. And by the way, all this garbage about use sunscreen for skin cancer, I did say garbage on purpose. Here's why. Somebody actually drew a nice little graphic that showed from the 1920s to the 1990s the increase in the amount of skin cancer and the increase in the amount of sunscreen use. And guess what? They paralleled each other. They went up in parallel. It's not to say that sunscreen causes cancer. It's just to say it's not doing that good a job preventing it, is it? No. And while we're at it, there's a very good bit of research out there showing that niacinamide, vitamin B3, helps to prevent skin cancer. It's that simple, vitamin B3. And if you look online, you'll find 4% niacinamide cream made up by a number of companies. Just rub the stuff in.
B or D?
Niacinamide, vitamin B3. That prevents skin cancer.
How much?
Well, one just gets the 4% cream, which you can get online. You can't see it's legal practice, and you just rub the stuff in like you rub in the skin cream. Sunscreen, excuse me. Yes, ma'am.
When the Scientologists did this test, are you taking into account that they also required people to do supplementation with was D3 and other nutrients?
No. This was strictly Scientologist funding. They funded the people at the University of Southern California, and people at the University of Southern California were doing a single parameter thing, which was just the sweating.
Okay, so
Nothing
that's
else.
really what their protocol is. They
Yeah.
didn't do things that.
Well, they might after this research was done, but the particular research they didn't. They just doing the one parameter. Yeah, I can't hear you now.
I just wanted him to articulate and slow down a little bit because the distortion of the speaker is, I'm not catching everything.
Oh, is there some way to get undistorted?
Yeah, so turn it down.
Your distortion.
Tiny bit.
Your speakers are distorting a little bit.
I don't know how to undistort it, I'm sorry. This gentleman's going to turn it down for us. Well, let's try turning it down first and see what happens. That's the simplest.
Sound check.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Talking fast. Say something really fast. Say something really fast.
Something really fast.
Go
But she asked me to say something really fast. Yeah, just put that on instead of the sunscreen. It's going to do a better job. All right. Well, back to building testosterone. If years ago, which was 1950s, they have all these records of men's testosterone not going down until roughly age 60, then it is reasonable for a guy who's under 60 to consider building his own rather than taking it from the outside. Now, my particular principles is that everybody's got a right to do with their own health whatever they want to do. So if a guy doesn't want to do that and he just says, I want to take testosterone, okay, cool, you realize you're going to have to be on it the rest of your life because you're going to suppress your own. I'd recommend you try to build back your own if you're not 60 yet, but if you don't want to do that, it's your life, whichever way it goes. So, in the building back process, the detox is very, very important. Now, the second thing is the nutrients that are known to boost testosterone. Well, as I mentioned to you, we have these whole bunches of medical journal articles accumulated. And we also, at the clinic, are fortunate enough to have a doc working with us who doesn't want to see patients. He wants to do research. He joined us just a few years back. So if we have a little task like, find all the research you can find on what builds vitamin and what builds testosterone in the body, it'll take a couple of weeks to come back with, oh my God, look at this stuff. So, what we did was take all the things that were seriously enough documented to build testosterone and put it into one formula. It's called T-Builder. And yes, I did work with this because I went through all the research and made it up. It's called, I didn't make it up, I went through all the research and I copied it.
It's called what?
T-Builder. Yeah, that's what it's called. T for testosterone, of course. We can't say testosterone builder, why that would be making a claim. We're building T. Yeah.
Like cheap but different.
Huh?
Like cheap but different.
Yeah, like that. So folks can use that if they want to, but as I say, I always recommend get the toxins that blink out of there. This T-builder isn't going to do that much for you. Okay.
Is environmental estrogen a problem for men?
Of course it is. It's one of the many, many toxins out there. Yes.
You're including environmental estrogen in the toxin list.
Yes, it can be excreted by sweating. Now, a little bonus point to that sweating. Oh, yes, sir.
I just heard a talk several weeks ago, and it talked about sweating for detox, especially heavy metals, but they mentioned the whole protocol. You purchase glutathione and 3 or 4 different
Glutathione?
what?
Glutathione.
Something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
No, sir. The research that was done at USC, as I said, was a one-parameter thing. It was just the sweating. Now, someone else may have done sweating with supplements, but I haven't seen that research yet. Not to say it doesn't exist, I just haven't seen it. So all they did was a one-parameter thing. Let's just sweat and see what happens.
I just like to clarify environmental estrogens, those are things that are in pesticides and herbicides and plastics, all of those things. And that's part of what we need to stay away from. And also, prostate cancer is very affected by these kinds of xenoestrogens, that's what they're called.
Well, there's definitely with the prostate cancer estrogens, for sure. Okay. Before we get away from sweating, there's a particular type of sauna sweating that you don't need so much in Hawaii, but we sure do need it in Washington State. You know, that sunshine we don't get most of the year. and there are other states where it can be used too, and that's the infrared sauna. You've heard of infrared saunas? Now, the reason why infrared saunas are, let's call them, have an added bonus to them, is Japanese researchers were the first to find that infrared actually penetrates into the body right into the blood vessel walls where it induces the production of nitric oxide. How do you like that? Yeah, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the stuff that Viagra stops from breaking down in the body. Nitric oxide helps keep the blood vessels enlarged so the blood can flow through better. And if our bodies can make their own nitric oxide in greater quantities, hey, there must be an advantage to that. Yeah, among other things, guys don't have to take as much Viagra. Yeah, so the infrared rays are what gets the blood vessel walls to make more nitric oxide. It induces an enzyme called nitric oxide synthase, and which just means synthesizing nitric oxide. And that's not the only purpose of nitric oxide. Some American researchers picked up on that in New Jersey, and they got a bunch of people with weak hearts, and they got them into the infrared sauna, and what do you know, they went up one category less in the, what is the American Heart Association classification of failure, heart failure. There's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. They went back one stage just by doing infrared sauna. Because, as the researchers explained, it was the infrared. Now around here you can get infrared really good, you just go out in the sun. You don't need a sauna for this. Infrared comes from the sun, we all know that. So you can get that benefit from just sweating in the sun. Yeah.
Isn't there blankets that also supposed to...
Yes, if they're blankets with little, they're not really crystals, they're quartz, and they put out infrared. Yeah.
Jonathan, hasn't the evolution of infrared now gone far, infrared, which is, have you read that? It's much more effective in penetrating than the straight
Yes, it is more effective, but let's put it this way, the sun's been around for longer than people. And the sun has been helping us make more nitric oxide for that whole time. So I think it's at least adequate, but it's not optimal.
Also, processing vitamin D.
Of course.
Well, some people may not know.
Okay, well, yeah, making vitamin D in the skin.
Have you moved on from testosterone, or are you going to come back to that?
No, that moved on yet. So far, we're just trying to get us guys to make our own testosterone, you see? Okay, now let's say we
Another
have...
question on testosterone.
Yeah.
Do women also need some testosterone?
Yes, ma'am. And I'll put that at the tail end. I'm going to put that at the tail end of this because I'm going to pay attention to guys for a little bit.
Okay, I'm going back to women. Good.
How much vitamin D can somebody take?
It really varies. It really, really varies. Some people need a bunch. Some people don't need that much. The absorption varies from person to person. Let's just take what I have the most experience with, Washington State. And looking at all that cloud cover most of the year, most people need between 5,000 and 7,000 units a day to stay normal under all that cloud cover.
Well, I get a 300,000 unit for 10 Swiss francs, and it lasts me for 6 months. And I always hear from everybody, you're crazy, that is way too high.
No.
But I have...
No, if it's over 6 months' time, it's nowhere
Yeah,
close to
it's
too high.
time release, and
Yeah.
I think that's about comes to that same thing. I think that
Yeah, again, if that's the total over the months. Oh, just before I get back to testosterone, I'll get there. Brief thing for people who travel. When you're traveling, don't take your fat soluble vitamins with you because they're fat soluble. So let's say I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks and I want to take my vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin E. Okay, the week before I leave, I take twice as much. The week after I get back, I take twice as much. They average themselves. No kidding, they're stored in the liver, they're stored in fat cells. So you just simply use twice as much for the period of time you're going to be gone. And you don't have to put them in your suitcase and get them examined by TSA. Yeah, but that will not work for water soluble vitamins B and C and anything else that goes through the body that rapidly. But the fat soluble vitamin it works for, and then hopefully I don't have to carry as many vitamins when you travel for that reason. Yeah. Okay. Now, back to testosterone for guys. And let's say a guy's of the age where his body just isn't going to make as much testosterone anymore. All right. Again, I'm going to emphasize we don't just look at the testosterone. We look at testosterone, DHEA, aldosterone, blah, blah, blah. But let's go back to testosterone because, hey, I'm a guy too and I like my testosterone, don't I? Yeah. Okay. So, first thing is, we never ever swallow testosterone or estrogen. Please. It's very bad. It can induce clots if we swallow this stuff. But if we rub it on, all we're doing is copying nature. Again, I'm not saying anything original. Where do the hormones go? They go from the testicles to the heart. The heart distributes them all over the body. And then a little bit is left out by the liver all the time. But if we swallow it, the whole darn thing goes to the liver. And the liver says, ah! Basically. And it's what's called thrombogenic, which is just Greek for it makes a thrombus or a clot. So we don't want to be swallowing the things, please, ever. Neither testosterone, nor estrogen, nor DHEA. None of that.
DHEA too?
DHEA? Oh gosh, I can always tell when the guy's taking DHEA by mouth because his estrone in his urine is elevated. The liver takes that DHEA and turns it into estrone, which is an estrogen. Sorry about that. I'm sorry nobody told you, sir. But every guy I have seen with a high urinary estrone and the other two estrogens are okay, that man is taking DHEA by mouth.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What about women with DHEA by now?
Same deal. It's going to turn you into estrogen.
But it also causes like thrombosis type thing in your liver.
No, the thrombosis can be anywhere in the body if you're taking these things. Anywhere in the body, not just in the liver.
What about pregnenolone? Can that be taken?
Pregnenolone, okay, let's go there for just a moment. Pregnenolone we have to watch out for. Pregnenolone is the so-called precursor hormone for all of the steroid molecules. Pregnenolone. I don't make up these names, I promise. I just copy and repeat them. But pregnenolone is supposedly the mother or father, depending on the gender, hormone for all your other steroid hormones. Okay. here's what happened in at least my experience. And let's see, this lady comes in, she's taking 100 milligrams of pregnenolone a day. And wow, is she feeling good with that much pregnenolone? Wow. Okay, just say, please, do the 24-hour test, and let's see how that pregnenolone is where it's going. Because pregnenolone is like here, like the beginning of a waterfall that spreads out into various rivulets like that, different pathways. Pregnenolone's here, it has to go here and here and here and here. And it should go to all the other steroid hormones. This woman, all of her pregnenolone, I should say, most of her pregnenolone, was ending up as cortisol. And it wasn't going to the other places. So the lady was on a cortisol high. And so no wonder she was feeling so down good. You can get really good. You take too much cortisone for a while, and then of course it eats away your bones and you're not doing so good. That was pregnenolone. Okay, now pregnenolone. Here's some bodybuilder guy. He's taking 100 milligrams of pregnenolone. They want, and I tell him, would you please do your 24-hour urine test and see what happens? That man is turning against double the amount of estrogen that men should have. You cannot count on pregnenolone to distribute itself equally down all the rivulets of steroid. I ask people, please do not take more than 20 milligrams orally without doing a 24-hour urine and making sure your metabolism is going to be safe. So, anybody wants to take more than 20? Go for it. Let's check you. And if you're distributing properly your primary hormone down all the channels, cool, keep it up. But if you're not distributing properly, please don't. It's not going to be good for you.
So I had heard at A4M that pregnenolone could help keep memory intact. How does it do that? Or does it translate into something else?
Probably it's translated to something else, but there's so many other things that will help memory that I just ignore it because it's a hazard.
I say, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so back to testosterone itself. Now the biggest hazard for testosterone for men is that 1/3 the male population takes their testosterone and turns it into too damn much estrogen. I'm not kidding. It's 1 man in 3. How do I know that? Well, my goodness, it's because the CDC, if you could believe a government agency, tells us that roughly 1/3 of our population is predisposed to type 2 diabetes. Roughly 1/3. Look it up on the CDC website. CDC, type 2 diabetes, etc. Roughly 1/3 of the population. Now, when we have type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, that type 2 or pre-diabetes disrupts testosterone metabolism and sends it off to become estrogen. No kidding. So I can actually diagnose diabetes by looking at the guy's 24-hour urine test. He's got more estrogen than men should have and less testosterone than he should have. That guy's got type 2 diabetes. He's going to have type 2 diabetes. So, what first thing men have to do when they get a dose of testosterone, let's say the blood testosterone is below normal. I'm not talking about below normal. I believe in optimal, which is at least median, please. And if a guy's over 65 and he can't hit the median, okay, we're going to supply a little testosterone if compounding pharmacy is going to actually. And have him take a conservative amount and do a test and see what happens. And if he comes out with good guy levels of testosterone, and his estrogen is well proportionate, it's less than the testosterone, cool! Then you can keep using your testosterone. But if he's the 1 guy in 3 who comes from a family with this type 2 diabetes, and here's his testosterone, here's his estrogen, that's going to be very bad for your prostate over time. So anybody who has a family history of type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, or something we'll get to later on, osteoarthritis, which is very related to type 2 diabetes. Anybody who has a family history of any of those things, uncle had joint replacement surgery, whatever, they've got to be suspicious that they're one of the guys who's going to turn testosterone into too much estrogen. Now, what does the guy have to do to put him into that process? Well, they got this blinking drug out there called anastrozole. It's not named after somebody's nostrils, but that's what it's called. It's called anastrozole. And what that does is it stops the testosterone from being turned into estrogen. Oh, isn't that good? Why not? Because it is such a slam that it cuts the estrogen too low, and a person has to tinker with teeny tiny doses of this stuff. It's not treating the cause. That's number 2 reason it's not so good. The cause is the insulin resistance. You've all heard of insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. and the excess insulin that's being made, that's the actual cause, and that's what should be treated. But what conventional medicine does is just, oh, here, have some anastrozole, and they totally ignore that the person's going to get type 2 diabetes in a few years. And they just, here, have some anastrozole. Now, why shouldn't we do that without a whole lot of precautions? Because, believe it or not, estrogen in small quantities is absolutely critical to men. In small quantities, it's absolutely critical. Our mothers are in our brains. The testosterone is locally turned into estrogen, and that helps with brain function. I didn't say all brain function, but some brain function. In the blood vessels, the testosterone is turned into estrogen, and that's what's really protecting our blood vessels, guys. And over there in the bones, the testosterone is being turned into tiny quantities of estrogen, and that's good for the bones. So this process, I don't know why somebody named it aromatization, because it sounds like something that smells bad, but that's just the, it does. When I first saw that word in medical school, I was thinking, ugh, you know? But there was named aromatization, turning testosterone into estrogen. That process needs to be there, but it needs to be regulated properly. And the only thing that will regulate it just right is getting rid of the high insulin signal and getting rid of the insulin resistance. And that isn't all that hard. Just ask Lori. You got that problem? You go onto a paleo diet. The good old caveman diet. And you start doing interval training. We've all heard of hard as we can for a couple of minutes and doing it again for a couple of minutes. Interval training has actually been researched against other types of exercise, such as aerobic training and so forth. And it's been found that interval training does the best job at helping us to take our way right out of type 2 diabetes into prediabetes and out of prediabetes into normal. No kidding. Now, I did mention that I really like working with engineers. Because once those guys and a few ladies, it's most of the guys still, I know it's sexist, but what can I do? Once those guys and a few women get into their minds that they're going to do something, oh my God, they just stick with it like, so I've watched a number of people take themselves right out of type 2 diabetes all the way over here into I'm not type 2 diabetic anymore, no pre-diabetic. And if a guy can do that, what he'll find at that point is his testosterone is no longer turning into estrogen. And what we're doing in conventional medicine by saying, here, have some anastrozole, we're just letting the diabetes proceed. But we're not doing anything about the cause. We're just treating one of the little symptoms down here, which is too much estrogen. Now that's 1/3 the guys. That's not the other 2/3. That's just 1/3. So the first thing the guy should do if he's old enough and his testosterone is low enough to take testosterone is only give it a month or two and check that testosterone to estrogen thing. And if after, you don't go past 2 months because it's going to happen. It's going to happen by 2 months. It's going to happen at all. It's going to happen by 2 months. Okay, so let's say you pass that. Oh, okay, I passed that. What else do I have to watch out for with taking testosterone? Well, a lot of you guys know a lot of stuff, but somebody mentioned to me, well, look at that, my blood count's going up too high when I take testosterone. The so-called hemoglobin hematocrit is starting to decline. Okay, it's easy enough to fix, go down your blood. But just make sure you check your blood count too, is the point. You not only want to check your testosterone to estrogen, but even if you're okay on your testosterone to estrogen, you want to check. The next thing is just make sure your blood count isn't climbing too high with that testosterone. And that doesn't happen to all guys either. That happens to a percentage of guys. And all they got to do is, okay, go up the blood back down in blood and just keep that hematocrit under control. Actually, as I mentioned before, that's something we all ought to consider if we want to lower our risk of heart attack and stroke. So, yes ma'am.
Did you refer to interval training?
Yes, interval training.
What is that?
That's exercising as hard as you possibly can for a couple, 3 minutes, then flopping on the floor and recovering from it, and then doing it again. You have another name for it, ma'am?
HIIT training, high intensity interval training.
There you go.
I'm a trainer and I'll tell you I can help her.
There you go. Okay. But that's the best kind for getting out.
So you would start small, just work out and then speed up for 3-4 minutes and then slow down?
Very limited sections of hard work. Maybe 30 seconds, and rest for 2 minutes. But as you get stronger, you can maybe work for 2 minutes and rest for a minute.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So So if we don't make too much estrogen, and if our blood counts aren't going up too high, then the only other thing we have to be guided by is what is our free testosterone level. And what we want there is we want to be at least at median and maybe a little higher than median, but we do not want to go above the usual range that's found in the human body. We're copying nature here. And there are some guys who like feeling hypertestosterone-ish. That just means I like my testosterone. But that's not actually what nature intended for us, so we try to stay out of that.
What kind of scores do you guys have?
Well, the free testosterone numbers vary from laboratory to laboratory, but usually I'm looking at that lab, and they go from here to there, and here's median, so I want about the 70th percentile, something like that.
For that age range, or only because, do they classify it according to age?
Oh, of course they do. Well, this is an anti-aging program, and so we're going to stay with, just like we do with the ladies, we go against what happened when she was 35 years old in the second half of her cycle. So we want to know what happens with men when they were 35. We want to stay there. Yeah.
Okay, to stay there. Are you going to talk about BPH and the relationship with estrogen?
Let's go. Okay, well, that's a nice segue. Thank you. You guys make
Excuse me, John, before you go
yes,
there,
sir.
the free testosterone, while you're on free testosterone, does free testosterone factor in SHBG?
No, I'm just looking at the free testosterone. I don't care where the SHBG is, as long as the free testosterone is median or above. Now, if the SHBG is high and the free testosterone is low, yeah, you've got to do something to try to rearrange them.
What if both are high?
If both are high? Haven't seen one of those yet, where both SHBG and the free
So then,
testosterone.
free testosterone does factor in the effect of SHBG. That's what I'm asking.
What effect are you thinking of?
Well, does when your testosterone is bound in fat, does that pulls it out of the population of accessibility, right? You can't absorb it if it's bound.
Absorb? See, the free testosterone is already absorbed. It's in the bloodstream. So what do you mean by absorbed?
Well, from the consultations I've done, when the SHBG is high, that binds the testosterone.
No, you have two measurements. You have your SHBG and you have your free testosterone. They're separate, independent measurements on the same blood test. And if that free testosterone is okay, I don't care where the blood the SHBG is, because I've not yet read anything. SHBG does this to me. The only thing I've read that SHBG can do is grab too much free testosterone, and then it's done something to me.
But that's a major issue in the male population. SHBG tends to rise and bind up to testosterone.
Well, only if it has bound up too much testosterone do I care.
Yeah.
That's the point. So what I'm looking for is a free testosterone, again, above median, and if it's above median, I don't care what the HHBG is.
Okay.
No. Because I'm looking for the free testosterone. It's effective. I may have missed something in the medical literature, but I've not found anything that says that high SHBG, all by itself, independent of its action on testosterone, has any bad effect. Yeah, it's only if it's bound up too much to testosterone, just like you said. Okay, well, if we're making too much estrogen...
I want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying SHBG, by the way, that means sex hormone binding globulin, right?
There you go. It's a globulin that grabs on testosterone. It also grabs on estrogen.
So if your testosterone was kind of high, and this, I've had this situation where I took too much testosterone and my sex hormone binding globulin was high. So you're saying the thing to pay attention to is
The free fraction of testosterone, not the total testosterone, the free fraction.
Yeah, of course, yeah. All right.
Yeah, because that's what gets into the receptors, is the free fraction.
Yeah.
If you've got no free fraction to hit the receptors, you're okay. Okay. Back onto the BPH for a little bit then. The estrogen is not good for the prostate gland. Oddly enough, there's one type of estrogen that probably doesn't hurt the prostate gland, and that's the estriol again. Now, there are testosterone metabolites. No kidding. There's not just plain testosterone. But testosterone, there's an enzyme that happens to be called 5-alpha reductase. I didn't make this up. It takes testosterone down to DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone. All right. Then after that, the DHT can be metabolized into something called 3-alpha and 3-beta 17 diol. Now, one of those, the 3-beta A diol, and these are technical terms, but let's just say here's the testosterone, here's the DHT, and here's these other two testosterones. So we got a total of 4 testosterones here. This one goes to that one, which branches into those two. One of those two is quite anti-carcinogenic, thank you. It's called 3-beta A diol. And there are many European studies, but absolutely zero done here in the United States, in which they took the 3-beta A diol, gave it to experimental animals with prostate cancer. The prostate cancer regressed. No kidding. 3-beta A diol is a type of testosterone. So once you're on your testosterone, you've got your level up here. Next thing you want to know is how is your testosterone metabolizing, and are you making more of the 3-beta? Remember the 3-estriol? Well, oddly enough, estriol and 3-beta A diol, which is the testosterone, they hit the same receptor. Yes, they're both anti-carcinogenic. And so for a guy, if he has more of his 3-beta that hits into this estrogen receptor beta that's all over the back of the prostate, if he has more of that than the pro-carcinogenic testosterone, guess what? He has lower risk of prostate cancer. But if his pro-cancer metabolites are higher than his anti-cancer metabolite, well, gee, he's got more risk. Now, that thing was proven beyond a doubt by Professor Lemon for estriol. What I'm telling you about now, nobody in the whole United States has bothered to even examine it. All this comes from over in Europe. We could briefly get 17 beta, no, sorry, I got 17 in there, I don't know why. 3-beta A diol, we could get this stuff for about 6 months back in 2012. And then guess which agency forbid its importation? I guess you can guess. So we cannot get it anymore. But here's the cool thing, a guy can make more of his own. And the FDA has not yet made a law against you making more of your own testosterone favorable. Okay. The research tells us that coconut oil and olive oil both increase the anti-carcinogenic testosterone. Yes.
Eat it.
Eat it. I worked with a guy who's, just for example, his anti-carcinogenic testosterone was low, his other two were higher. You just add the two pro-carcinogens, compare them with the anti-carcinogen. He happened to like coconut oil. So the man went home and took 2 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, came back in about 3 months, got his test done. Now he's got more of the anti-carcinogen. By the way, this is proven from animal research. I've applied it in people, and it works in people too, thank you. So coconut oil and olive oil are on that list. Oddly enough, being hypothyroid is not a good idea because the most active thyroid hormone called T3, or free T3, this is another one that's free and bound. The free T3 increases the anti-carcinogenic testosterone. Now, the free T3 increases the anti-carcinogenic testosterone, so if a guy gets his testosterone metabolites checked, and he finds out he's low on the anti-carcinogen, one of the good things to do is go off and have your free T3 and free T4 measured, and see if you're okay on that, or work with a doctor who knows what he's doing with thyroid and gets a free T3 measured. Another thing that will increase it happens to be something you've heard about, especially if you've been reading Life Extension magazine. It's called NADH. Niacinamide dinucleotide hydrogenated. Now, NADH is pricey, everybody, but the reason it's being pushed so hard by Life Extension magazine and other places is because somebody has put a use patent on it. It can be used for this purpose. It's not just you patent the molecule, you can also do a use patent. And there's some company out there that's got a use patent. Well, I'm happy to tell you that niacinamide, which you can buy in your local health food store, 500 tablets, 500 milligrams each, for $9.74. Look it up online. It's made by Bronson Pharmaceuticals. Our bodies will metabolize niacinamide into NADH very, very nicely. So we don't have to go buy NADH, but we do need to take a higher amount of niacinamide than is usual. It's a safe amount, but it usually takes 2 to 3 grams a day to get our own bodies to make enough of that NADH. Why does it take so much? Well, because it's coming from the outside. It's not being made in the usual way. In case you didn't happen to know, 1/3 of the population is at risk for not making enough NADH internally. And those are the people who get osteoarthritis. I'm very serious about this. There's a researcher by the name of Oxenkrug. You want to look this one up? He's really spectacular on this topic. OXEN, like too many bovines, oxen, and then KRUG, Oxenkrug. Anyway, he's put out all these publications about how in those type 2 diabetics and pre-diabetics, and we're back to them again, it disrupts another pathway. This pathway metabolizes tryptophan, which we've all heard about. It's an amino acid. And it metabolizes it into, guess what? Niacinamide. But if you happen to be pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, that pathway is disrupted. And instead of the tryptophan going to niacinamide and niacin, it goes into something called xanthogenic acid and chymogenic acids. And I did not make that up, that's what they're called. But let me tell you a really good one about this one that occurred in the 1970s. I'm getting off the testosterone topic, I will get back to it. In the 1970s, 2 groups of researchers cured, and I did emphasize that, gestational diabetes in 2 weeks.
Wow.
With no diet changes.
Really?
Yes, really.
What did they do?
What they found was that in those ladies who had gestational diabetes, that tryptophan to niacinamide and niacin pathway had been disrupted, and too much of these 2 other acids were being made now. They're usually made in small background amounts, but they were making bunches of it. The xanthogenic acid combines with insulin and keeps it from working. So it's got nothing to do with eating too much sugar. It's got to do with the metabolic pathway disruption. So they had them fix the pathway by taking extra amounts of vitamin B6. And by the way, if you ever want to do this, you take pyridoxal phosphate. That's the activated form. The plain vitamin B6 is not activated. It doesn't work so well. Pyridoxal phosphate. It's called P5P. All your health food store labels will say P5P.
P5P on it.
It says P5P. So they had them take, in those days they didn't have P5P. So back then they just had them take pyridoxal itself, 50 milligrams twice a day. 27 women, 24 of them were cured within 2 weeks. They all had gestational diabetes. They were all cured within 2 weeks. Now, I put that on my newsletter from time to time and try to remind people you don't need to have gestational diabetes. You just get rid of it by taking the P5P stuff. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I take niacin plus every day, it's quite some. But I need niacinamide as well, do I, to do the NADH?
No, niacin will do it. They both will do it if it needs be. Yeah, so you'll find that. Okay, so, yes,
I just want to say I was not able to figure out how to spell the 3 beta something, and I thought I'd put it on there because you could go over there.
okay. Yeah, here's how
Anti-carcinogenic testosterone.
yeah, here's how it is in so-called scientific terms, okay? That's ADIOL. Now that is the scientific short term for a name that's this long. If you put in DEA glucose iodine into your search engine, I've done that lots of times, what will come up is a website from the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, telling everybody that it's going to be illegal to buy full-strength glucose iodine without a prescription. So all that's available online is low-strength glucose iodine. And then they tell you why they did that. Why did they do that? Because if we allow people to just buy a full-strength glucose iodine over the counter, why they might rush right out and make methamphetamine with it. That says so in the DEA website. They might rush right out and make methamphetamine with it. And then 2 paragraphs later on the same website they say, although nobody's ever done that. No kidding. So, I'm just bringing this up because if anybody wants to buy the rolls online, it's not going to be full strength. And you have to talk to a doctor about getting a full strength prescription. Or if you get the half strength online, use twice as much, right? Mm-hmm. You do a little math, everybody can do math. Yeah, just ask them what percentage strength it is and bring it up to full
what kind
strength.
of iodine should we get?
Lugol. L-U-G. Lugol. L-U-G-O-L''S. Now, after a little bit, I'll get to another reason that one should get Lugol iodine around the house. But this one is in case a person, a woman, has sore breasts. Iodine will sometimes take away the soreness, particularly nipples. And when it doesn't, the estrogen just needs to go down again. Yes, ma'am?
I've been taking for a number of years, 12.5 milligrams.
That's full strength.
Potassium iodine.
Oh, that's fine. And if it's 12.5 milligrams, you won't get in trouble. But here's the big problem, man. There's this newsletter over here about how to prevent breast cancer. Just by putting a drop of glucose over here and a drop of glucose over there on alternate days. Now, what's been found is that iodine has cancer-fighting properties and iodide does not. So you're not making full advantage of the properties of iodine. It will do some things for you.
You take care of my diabetes condition.
Absolutely, and I'm going to get to that. It does take care of that, but it doesn't take care of cancer situations. That's what we're going to get to. Yes, sir. Oh, what's the biochemistry then? Well, I was going to do that just as soon as I discussed what she was mentioning, how to get rid of fibrocystic breast disease, because that one allowed me to learn. Okay. And I won't switch over to male hormones quite yet. I will get there sooner or later. All right. Well, Laura just mentioned that fibrocystic breast disease goes away with iodine or iodide. It does go away with either one. I learned that from Dr. John Myers. He's a doctor who's no longer with us. He was very famous in this field in the last part of the 20th century, and he was in Baltimore. And he gave us all being the class of physicians who did show up, class in how to get rid of fibrocystic breast disease every time. I'm not kidding, every time. What did he do? What did Dr. Myers do? Well, let's see. We have about 30, 35 physicians in the room, and here's these two poor ladies who have a terrible case of fibrocystic breast disease, a terrible case. And they volunteered for this, to have the doctors palpate and just barely touching it. Ow, ooh, ow. And it feels like hard rubber rocks in there, and the whole breast is filled up with these cysts. All right. Then Dr. Myers says, come on, nurse. And they go in the exam room, and they get a swab, cotton swab, you know. This is a big cotton swab, because they're dipping it in Lugol iodine, and they're then swabbing the entire inside the vaginal area with it. Yeah, no kidding. All right. And then Dr. Myers says that it works even better. You don't have to do this, but it works even better if you get an injection of magnesium immediately after. So he did that. And then Dr. Myers came back out, and the women came back out a little bit and sat down. And he continued for about half an hour, and he looks at his watch and says, okay, let's palpate those breasts again. This time they were smiling at us. I'm not kidding.
That soon?
That soon. I wasn't cured. It's just that it would no longer hurt as much when it was palpated. Dr. Myers says, you just repeat that until this fibrocystic breast disease is gone. And so for some women, it takes 8 to 10 treatments. For some women, it takes 20 or 30 treatments. Now, everybody always wants to know, why can't I just swallow the iodine? Here's why. Dr. Myers was a surgeon. And what he did is to round up a bunch of beagles with fibrocystic beagle breast disease. No kidding. There's actually beagles where the female beagles get fibrocystic beagle breast disease. No kidding. Yeah, right. Beagle. You know, woof woof, yeah, woof woof, dog. There's beagles who get fibrocystic breast disease. The women, not the men, or not the male dogs, of course. All right. So, he's a surgeon, remember? So he does ovariectomy on half of those beagles. Removes their ovaries. They still got fibrocystic breast disease. And the other half, so they won't have a psychological effect. I'm not kidding. He has to do this. He's at the university. They do what's called a sham ovariectomy, which means you cut open, have a look, and close again. A sham ovariectomy. All right. Then he gets all the little beagles the swab treatment with the Lugol's. The beagles who get the real thing, their fibrocystic disease starts getting better and it fades away ultimately. The beagles who had the sham ovariectomy, the beagles who had their ovaries out did not get better. So what Dr. Myers says is obviously there's something the ovaries do with that iodine that the breasts need. He says that's why you got to put it into the vaginal area, because the ovaries are right there. It'll go right to the ovaries and then up to the breasts and things get better. Well, okay, I learned that in 1976 from Dr. Myers. And between 1976 and approximately 1971 or 72, we saw over 500 women with fibrocystic breast disease. Every one of them was completely cured. You either couldn't feel anything after the series of treatments, or you could feel just a little teeny pebble in there. That's it. Yes.
You mentioned that the little iodine inserted in the vagina goes up through the ovaries.
Well, yes.
I don't have any ovaries. Is there
You have less of a chance if you have fibrocystic breast disease of getting better. I'm not saying you have no chance, but you have less of a chance. Yeah.
But would I get benefit from putting swabbing it internally in the vagina?
Not necessarily, no, because the ovaries are gone. So in your case, you might as well swallow the stuff if you're going to use it. There's other reasons for swallowing, and I'll get there.
What about putting it on the breast?
Yes. I'll get there too, but I want to answer this gentleman's question. Now, in the course of treating those 500 ladies, the question came up fairly often. Since I had this bad case of fibrocystic breast disease, aren't I more likely to get breast cancer? So we did what Dr. Lemon told us, and we measured the ratio of the estriol, which remember is the good guy, or we should say the good lady, in this case. We measured the ratio of the estriol to the other estrogens. Some of the women had a poor ratio. It was a minority, but some of them didn't have much estriol. And those women said, well, gee, you didn't tell us about Dr. Lemon, and that's what you did the test for, and my estriol's low. Well, I do. And I said, well, let's just wait till the treatment's over and see what happens. So, some got another 5-6 treatments, some got another 20 treatments till the fibrocystic breast disease was gone. Okay, let's measure your estrogens again. Every one of those women who had low estriol had gone up. So one of the things that iodine does, it helps a woman's body make more good estrogen. That's why. And that's why all the younger ladies who are still having their cycles should be considering the use of iodine and iodide, because they both have effects in the body. And if we never go over the dose that Lori mentioned, which is 12.5 milligrams a day, we won't get into trouble. The upper limit is actually 14, so it's kind of close to that. Now that's why that newsletter tells us.
Is that the estrogen you mentioned before?
Estriol, this stuff here.
Okay,
It's a 12.5 milligram measurement. Total of estriol, total of iodine and iodide. Now, let's go into the estrogen iodine biochemistry a little bit more, just a little bit. It helps us make more estriol. But, let's say we happen to be a 23-year-old woman and there's breast cancer in the family. How can we lower our odds tremendously of getting breast cancer? I do mean tremendously. What that newsletter explains in more detail is very simple. That iodine and iodide have two separate functions. The iodine will not kill cancer cells. The iodine will kill cancer cells. So we want iodide in this as well as iodine. That's why I like Lugol's, because the thyroid gland really prefers iodide. It loves iodide. It doesn't like iodine so much. So we put one drop here today, and one drop here tomorrow, and one drop here today, and one drop here tomorrow. The iodine stays resident, not all of it, but a lot of it in the breast. Most of the iodine travels elsewhere to the thyroid and so forth. Now, if a cancer cell starts to appear, oddly enough, researchers, and you'll find the citations in that newsletter, have proven that only breast cancer cells can take up iodine. Normal breast cells do not take up iodine. And so when that abnormal, I should call it, when that breast cancer cell takes up iodine, it kills it.
Wow.
Yes, but that's only one piece of good news. The second piece of good news, insurance here, is that there is a type of fat that's found in every woman's breast, and that fat, when it sees a breast cancer cell coming, combines with iodine. This is the iodine that didn't get into the breast cancer cell, it combines with it, forms something called an iodolactone, which just means a combination of the fat and the iodine, and that kills breast cancer cells. So we have two different mechanisms of actions that scientists have figured out, and why this hasn't been in the newspapers. Look, scientists figured this out years ago. Just iodine and iodine, you can't risk breast cancer like that. You can't patent it. And so you're not going to hear about it. But just one drop here, one drop there, one drop here, one drop there, and you cut your risk of breast cancer quite dramatically. Yeah.
Does Lugol's contain both iodine as well as
Yes,
iodine?
Lugol's is a 50-50.
Okay. Thank you.
Iodine and iodine. Yeah, for sure.
So, once you say a drop, you mean you take a dropper, kind of?
Yes, almost all Lugol's that's sold comes with in a dropper bottle. You just take one drop.
And the reason is, so it doesn't last for long in your body, so that's why you need to do it
Several times a day?
Well, everything that we put in here comes out there, right? So
But everything you put in your skin.
it's going to come out sooner or later, yes. So you have to keep repeating the process.
So once a day?
Oh, no, just once a day.
Once a day.
One drop here today, one drop there tomorrow, one drop here today, one drop there tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain again why the triiodine, three forms of iodine taken internally and swallowing doesn't work as well?
Triiodine?
Well, the kind of iodine that I've got has three forms of it.
As far as I know, and I have studied biochemistry quite a lot, there's only two forms of iodine. There's iodine and iodide. And iodine is two iodine molecules stuck together, like that, and the body can't take it apart. And iodide is an iodine molecule with a sodium or a potassium or something like that. And they can leave real easy, yes. Yeah.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
as far as the fibrocystic breast, you take it in your vagina.
Yes, if you got ovaries.
You could put a whole dropper?
No, Dr. Myers, when he was teaching this, he had a big old swab, man. And the end of that swab was about that long and that wide. It was all cotton, of course. And he soaked it in the little balls and it goes shh, like that.
That's it.
And by the way, none of the women who we treated for fibrocystic breast disease had iodine overdose. Apparently their bodies just needed the stuff. And quite obviously, we quit swabbing them when their fibrocystic breast disease was gone. Yeah, after that, it's back to a drop a day, please.
How often did they do that treatment?
As often as the women could put up with it, seriously.
Like every day?
Some of them wanted it every day, somebody said, no, I can only handle this a couple times a week. No.
If you have postmenopausal ovaries, do you still put any iodine in your vagina?
Not much point.
Not much more.
No.
So you put it on the breast?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So that's iodine biochemistry and estrogen, and just very briefly, sorry, I'll be back here.
FYI, it says the triiodine has three beneficial forms of iodine, blend of potassium iodide, sodium iodide, and molecular iodine.
Well, actually, then what you've got is iodine and iodine, and the sodium and potassium,
It's just a marketing gimmick.
it's a marketing gimmick, yes. They could also make molybdenum iodide if they felt like it, yeah. No. Okay. Before we switch over to guys, thank you for being patient, guys. I think there was one other thing here. Oh, yes, and that is let's be comprehensive with our hormones. For women, we have estrogen, we have progesterone. But remember, women need a little bit of testosterone too. And we want to measure these to make sure it's safe. And please, folks, do not let anyone fool you into saying that blood tests or saliva tests are accurate. They're not. There's a bunch of publications showing that if the hormones are made within a woman's own body, in other words, a young woman, the salivary tests correlate with what's really in her. But if it comes from the outside, the salivary test is completely off the map. with where it should be. And the blood tests are equally lousy. Why? Well, I'm going to have the Seattle City Council pass an idiot resolution, which they always do in Seattle. An idiot resolution that says, since a man can get serum testosterone and the free testosterone measured in blood, we make a resolution that the lab should always check estradiol, estrogen, and estradiol in the free fraction in the blood.
You know what?
In the free fraction in the blood. The free fraction, because the free fraction, in case anybody doesn't know this, hormones, this is the way nature does it. I didn't make this up. 98 to 99% of any hormone is glommed onto a big old protein called sex hormone binding globulin. It doesn't do a damn thing except tour all around the body doing nothing. And the part of the hormone that does the work is the 1%. It is not on that hormone binding globulin. And instead, it's free, it's the free fraction, and you can go touch the receptors. Imagine this. You've got a giant beach ball, and you've taped a lot of keys to it. There's your house key. Okay, pick up the beach ball and go open the house. Is that going to work? How are you going to move that key into the receptor? You're not. But if it's just the key and you got the key in your hand, you can open your house. That is, if you have old-fashioned technology like keys instead of electronic cards. So, anyway, the reason you can't get free estrogens accurately in the blood is because another doctor proved to us, his name is Long Hope, he published in 1975, that the half-life of estradiol, which is the most important daily carcinogenic estrogen, in blood is 6 seconds to 120 seconds. And after that, it's gone. So anybody who tries to tell us that we should be using blood or saliva tests for measuring hormones, and by the way, I am so disappointed with the head of the education program at A4M, a woman who I will not name, who is telling us all to use salivary tests. That's just not the way to go. I don't know why she hasn't read the scientific journals. I don't know what's the matter with the woman, but she's the head of the program. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, of course, I am opinionated, I think she should be fired for not reading the scientific journals.
How can you test?
What?
How can you get an accurate test?
Urine. Because everything, look, if we didn't spill our hormones into our urine well, then all the 18-year-old guys would be driving the 18-year-old ladies nuts. So some hormone comes out every day to keep their levels down. And that's just the way it is. It's produced, it's used, and out it comes. But the free fractions are all found in urine. And as far as I'm concerned, the best way of doing that is you collect all the urine for 24 hours. It's a pain in the rear end, but you collect it all for 24 hours, and then you pour a little bit in the tube and send the tube off to the laboratory after you write down how much was in that jug. And all the jugs have so many cc's on the side, so you can just easily see how much. Okay, you guys stuff for a little bit.
So is that still the only way for a man to get tested accurately, or for women as well, for urine?
Very fortunately, we can get a free testosterone in the blood accurately for men. We cannot get that for women. We can for men, but not for women.
One quick question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm waiting for a slow question.
Do the iodine treatments also help with ovarian and uterine cysts?
Yes, ma'am. One of our daughters had ovarian cysts. We put her on to Lugol's iodine, and they weren't there anymore. The next time she was scanned, it was several months later, but they weren't there anymore. Well, that one we just had to swallow stuff because it was ovarian cysts. We just had to swallow it. Yeah.
So for the men, what are you testing in the urine? Is it all three?
Well, when we test men in the urine, we're checking testosterone there, but we also are taking advantage of checking all the other hormones, and I'll just mention those right now. Anybody who doesn't realize that things decline with age, I don't think is here, or we wouldn't be here listening to me carry on. All hormones decline with age. There's hardly any of them that go up with age. So, in a 24-year test, we measure, let's take men now, testosterone. We measure DHEA. We measure oxytocin. Now, why should we measure oxytocin? It's not just because it's a love and sex hormone. There's really good research by a researcher whose last name I can't pronounce, but I can spell it. It's ELBAD, LBAD, And what Dr. Abed and his team showed us is that oxytocin, O-X-Y-T-O-C-I-N, oxytocin, stimulates bone marrow stem cells to make new bone. It's not just estrogen that can do that job. Oxytocin does that job. So we want to know about oxytocin. We want to know about aldosterone. Now, Professor Dennis Troon at the University of Oregon, a fellow, did something nobody else has done. He found that he could restore hearing in aging rats. And whenever I say rats, I do not mean politicians. I mean real rats. Okay? So he could restore hearing in aging rats. Not 100% of them, but in a large percentage by looking to see what their aldosterone was. And if it was low, he had them give them aldosterone. And I thought their hearing came back.
What's that word?
LZ.
Full. I spot.
All right.
And I'm going, I know I feel more alive than ever and have longevity in my blood. Both folks leaving at 97. So I'm just wondering, this is a sign that actually it's very healthy.
It probably is. Now what you might want to do is build on that now. There's a doc in New York City who was very much, in his time, the expert on clinical use of DNA and RNA. And he would work with women who were just going into menopause, and he would have them take a large dose of DNA, RNA, which is available in natural food stores. Some of those women, their periods came back perfectly normally for another few years after they did that. So if you're doing this little spotting thing, who knows if it's coming full moon, then it probably is not an endometrial cancer because those don't just bleed on the full moon, you know. So you're doing a quote normal phase type bleeding. You might want to go get yourself some DNA and RNA and take this stuff, man, because you might even get some more back.
That's exciting. So what doctor is this?
I'm trying to remember his name right now. It's German, I can't. But he was using what are called 5-grain tablets. And a grain is 65 milligrams. So you can multiply by 5. And one of the best sources of DNA and RNA is a place that's called, I'm not kidding, it's called Yoo-Hoo Naturals. Y-O-O-H-O-O Naturals. And they happen to be from New Zealand, where they don't use any artificial anything in their agriculture, and they're world renowned for that. And this stuff comes from lamb placenta. Lamb placenta. Lamb. As in bat. Placenta. Yeah.
The likelihood is Swiss, German, and hormones are kind of like the charm of medicine. So a year ago I went to the doctor at Kaiser and asked for some hormones because now I'm 62. And so he prescribed, and this year I went again, and I said, he prescribed it, I bought it, but I didn't took it because I was really not sure what I have. And she said to me, well, you now anyway, you're 62, it's good, so we just cut the whole thing, you don't have to take it anymore, it's too late.
Bologna. That's what my Italian grandma would say. Bologna.
Well, yeah, I hear Bologna for the first time here. And so now I'm back to square one because I have to also break that kind of belief of like the European, because we always fall a little behind when some new stuff coming out, and to really break through and say, okay, this is now my time, and I'm starting fresh, like I just, so I want to learn then, how do I start, like my period just stopped yesterday, even though it stopped many months ago, but I didn't do it.
Well, remember the activation of the acetylcholine, that's the first step.
Yeah, I get that now, because I certainly cannot follow Laura, you say she never had a seed, never had a moment, I do nothing.
That needs to be for 3 or 4 months, and then you have to find a doctor who knows what they're doing with the bioidentical hormones. And I'm sorry, there's some who do and some who don't.
So do you have a list of people we can trust?
The place.
It's a clinic, it's in your zip code. Oh, did you have it in here?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good.
Yes, ma'am.
I heard 2 stories about muscles and estrogen, and I noticed that when I went through menopause, I stiffened right up. And I said, oh, my estrogen is down to nothing, and is that true about the smooth movement of muscle with estrogen?
Ma'am, there are two major things that support muscle, neither one of them is estrogen. One is testosterone, the other one is oxytocin. And oxytocin declines with time too, and it can be measured in a laboratory test. Oxytocin not only stimulates bone growth, as I mentioned before, but it stimulates muscle growth too. Yeah. It's good stuff. Well, here's the sad part. We can walk into any health food store and buy melatonin if we want. Take a little, go to sleep better. Oxytocin never hurt anyone. It comes out in a giant flood when Mother is having her baby, doesn't it? Yes, it certainly does. And yet you can only get it on prescription. FDA regulation. So you have to pay a bunch for it. You can't get it out of the health food store where it would be nice and cheap.
And you can't stimulate it.
I've not found a way to do so, let's put it that way.
Orgasm doesn't do it?
That would probably be the one way. So you're quite right, you can follow these other ladies and have lots of orgasms.
Lots of orgasms.
Yes,
It's orgasm, oxytocin is released when a woman has an orgasm.
Yeah.
Some other things, as well as having birth, also with men too. I believe.
but never as much as during childbirth, darn it.
Right. No, never as much as during childbirth, but with men also. And it's also, I always explore aphrodisiacs, so I used it, and it's kind of very relaxing and kind of bonding on that level. It's considered a hormone of bonding.
Oh, that's what it's most known for, but it has all these other functions too.
Yes, I'm thrilled. I never knew that. And it is by prescription. It can be inhaled. It can be with a water.
Because touching produces
A little bit, yes sir.
Back to the blood thinning.
Yeah, let's go back there.
When you take testosterone, your hematocrit level.
Some men's hematocrit does, not every man's.
Mine goes up to the high normal.
Yeah, well, that's easy to deal with. One donates blood. Now,
And one book I read said, oh, if you're worried about it, just, let it go.
that's correct. Now, the reason this all works is because of the thickness of blood. It's very different between menstruating women and everybody else. And a guy who doesn't obviously have menstrual periods is what's called hematocrit, and for those who don't know the word, it means the percentage of red blood cells in the total blood volume. And the hematocrit range for women who are in their menstrual years, depending on the laboratory, goes from 36% to 42% red blood cells. For men, it's entirely different. It goes from about 45 to about 52, depending on your laboratory. We have men have much higher percentage of red blood cells because we're not losing them every month. Okay. When blood is that thick, it's abrasive. Now, just think about it for a moment. Cholesterol, that's what causes it. Where does cholesterol accumulate? At the branch points of arteries? Ever heard of having an arm attack or a leg attack? Why not? If it's cholesterol created, if it's inflammation, and cholesterol is just covering it up, why shouldn't we get inflammation down every arterial tube? We don't. If you look at pictures of the heart with cholesterol accumulation, it's at the branch point of the artery. The carotid's branch point here. And they're both close to the heart, which is the source of the most pressure behind the blood flow. So, as Dr. Cho, who's the physicist, explained, if you have a river coming straight down the mountain, does it erode the sides of the river? A little bit, not much, but a little bit. But what happens when it comes to the bottom and hits an island? Erosion! Just where that stream comes down here, erosion. Now that's called inflammation in the human body. And when I was doing a lot of gardening, I got calluses, didn't I? Nature was just protecting me. I was doing all this weeding and I got calluses, and I don't have calluses now. Where'd they go? I don't need them anymore. I'm not doing all that weeding. Well, same deal here. Nature is protecting the abraded artery, which happens at the branch point, by pasting cholesterol over it. That's all. And so we paste it. It's like plaster on a damaged wall. Then you put the plaster on, but if you keep abrading, you got to put on more and more plaster, don't you? And the more and more plaster you put on, the more cholesterol in that artery, the less the blood can get through. And sooner or later, the blood can't get through, even if it's 25 years in building up. So the whole concept is that the uterus helps keep mom alive by keeping her blood thin enough that she doesn't abrade her arteries until she has menopause. We don't need her anymore. And her kids are all grown up. It's just what you're pointing out. Her kids are all grown up now. We don't need mom anymore. Goodbye. You can have a heart attack. Because as you know, the risk of a woman having a heart attack by age 65 is slightly higher than it is for men. No kidding. Oh yes, that's in the statistics. It starts to exceed men about that. So this blood donation is a big deal, and how do we know how to individualize? It's pretty simple. That red blood cell count, called the hematocrit, what is normal for a menstruating woman? 36, 37 to 42, 43. Okay, every time you go into the blood bank, what do? Poke your finger, right? Because they want to make sure that you're not anemic. They don't want to take blood from anemic people, so they poke your finger. So you just look at the person and say, what's my crit? And don't say hematocrit. Hematocrit is Greek for percent of red blood cells in the total bloodstream. But you know, in any profession, you have to make up slang words, right? So the slang word for percent of red blood cells in the total blood volume is not hematocrit, it's crit. And if you say crit, they think you know something.
What is crit?
It's the slang word for hematocrit, and hematocrit is the percent of red blood cells within the total blood volume. But you want to say crit, because that way, oh, this person must know something. And they'll tell you what your crit is.
And do they know, they have to measure that before you can give blood?
That's right, because otherwise they may be taking blood from anemic people.
Is it the same as if you do a blood test and it shows it?
Yes, the blood, CBC shows the crit too. So you go in there, they poke your finger, or you go get a blood test done called CBC, which just means complete blood count. And you look at that crit. And if you're within the upper end of menstruating woman's range, you're not likely to have a heart attack, are you? So men want to time their visits to the blood bank. They just stuck me in the finger and told my crit was 48. Oops, I'm not going in often enough. Okay, I come back a little sooner. Now what's my crit? I want them to tell me every time I go back there that my crit is at the upper end of a menstruating woman's range. 42 to 43 now. And you see when they draw blood, the percent of red blood cells is going to go down, isn't it? So if we check you again after that unit of blood comes out, your crit is now going to be 37 or 38. But that's normal for a menstruating woman, and is she unable to take care of her kids or do anything else just because her crit's 37? No, it's within a very livable range. Now the other big advantage of donating blood, besides reducing the thickness of blood down to the upper end of what it is in a menstruating woman, is that every time you draw blood, your body has to make new blood cells, doesn't it? It does. Every time she has a period, her body has to make new blood cells. New blood cells are more flexible. They're like teenager blood cells. And they can form a blood cell sandwich and get right through the tiniest veins there are and deliver oxygen and nutrients to the tissues through those tiny, tiny veins. Once a red blood cell gets past about 4 months of age, it can no longer make a red blood cell sandwich. It's not flexible anymore. I'm not as flexible as I was when I was 16. And so we not only get the advantage of the less thick blood, but we get better nutrient delivery if we do this. Yes, ma'am.
They refuse to take blood when I donate because I'm under 110 pounds most of my life. They won't take blood because I'm under 110 pounds.
Well, here's the thing then. You've got to locate a naturopathic doctor. They're usually naturopaths. There's a few MDs who do what's called therapeutic phlebotomy. It's just the same as they did to George Washington, except we don't want that much. Yeah. And one first thing you might do is just go and ask your doctor, I want to see what my blood count is, called CBC, just to see where you are personally at this point. And you pay attention to the hematocrit number. Yeah. On the paper, it's always going to say hematocrit, but the slang is crit. Yes, sir.
So if your crit is 90 to 98, how often should you donate?
Ooh, you're never going to have a crit of 90 to 98. You'd be dead. The highest the guys usually get is in the 50s.
Okay, I may have just have to look at the test, but that's what I thought it was.
No.
It's the highest normal range.
The highest in the normal range is somewhere in the 50s.
Okay.
And that's dangerous for a guy. Yes, ma'am.
So
you need, how often would you need to get?
Well, you just go back. Then you go back again and see what my crit is, and go back again and see what my crit is. Just adjust, self-adjust.
So men's crit should be about the same as a woman's crit?
The high end of a woman's, because remember, you get your blood drawn, you're going to go down to low end, 42, 43, yes.
So women should have what, Chris?
Well, if she's past her menstrual years, then she should have a 42 or 43 also.
Wow.
Yeah, huh?
Above minimum.
Yeah, huh? Because remember, the woman had that for her whole menstruating years, so she's much less risk. Yeah.
What about the iron levels?
They're not near as important as the hematocrit.
No?
No, not near as important. There is a thing called hemochromatosis that you're probably referring to. And that's another genetic thing that you accumulate too much iron, you make too many red blood cells. Even then, you should be donating blood. You don't want all those red blood cells.
Right, so I heard that when a man or a woman after menopause, 5 years after menopause, catches up to the man's danger level,
Yeah.
they give blood to reduce that ferrous, something ferrous.
Iron.
Right, because when you do, if, let's say, you would have a heart attack, it kind of almost rusts in there. Is that the aberration you're talking about?
If you get too much iron, it leads to too much oxidation, is what you're looking for. Yes. But here's another thing now. Never ever rely on the ferritin. The ferritin is a protein made in the liver. Iron is a mineral. The ferritin is the suitcase. The iron is what's being carried by that suitcase. So if you want to know your iron level, you don't measure the suitcases. You measure the iron. I've seen people with normal iron and high ferritin. I've seen people with high iron and low ferritin. Remember, one's made in the liver to carry the iron around, but it's not the iron itself. So I don't know why, about 25 years ago, doctors were, what shall I say, indoctrinated? Yeah, that's a good word for it. At the medical school, that you must do the serum ferritin if you're going to test iron. Because they say that's dumb. That's checking the person for suitcases rather than going through the contents of the suitcase. Yeah.
I have always low ferritin. Is there any danger to that? I'm
Um,
normal iron.
If you're normal iron, probably not, because it's major job is carrying iron around. Okay, so,
Are we going to stop for lunch then?
well, sure. I mean, if you want to stop for lunch, we'll stop for lunch.
I'm fine, but I'm wondering about you guys.
Yeah.
Lunch is
Okay, well then, just one other thing, and then after lunch, we'll get back to the men's hormones. And that is, I'm going to ask my wife to come on up here. Holly? Yes, you come on up here. No, she lets me do this, okay? I have her permission. Mhm. Okay, now what she lets me do is let you guess how old she is.
Well, it seems like a trick question, so
It is a trick question.
I'm going to say 72. Knowing that,
Any other
we
guesses?
are overshooting the mark way.
63.
Oh, I like her.
Go for it.
Okay, so I used to be a nurse in Taiwan. Never heard this kind of thing. All it's pushing pills. Kind of medicine. So I had problems with my stomach.
Here, let's get you on this, right? Make sure that. Well, ice cream cone.
Okay, so I had a problem with my stomach. And so, they just told me that I had too much acid. Okay, so that's when I was in the United States, in Seattle. Went to see a regular MD. So they say, well, you have too much acid. I know all about this. So here is your prescription. Tagamet at that time. It was anti-acid. I said, really? She said, oh, just go home and then take this. You'll be fine. Okay. Well, I didn't understand. Okay. And the hospital pushing pills too. So I said, okay. So I did. So I took Tagamet for 2.5 years. So yeah, 2.5 years. That made me so sick. I was sleeping 16 hours a day. I had no energy. Like hypoglycemia, chronic fatigue, and severe anemia, and depression. And I wanted to kill myself. Can you believe that? All my life I was a happy-go-lucky person. Why would I want to kill myself? So I was lucky that I met him. So he says, I was very lucky, saved my life. He says, come to the clinic, we're going to do a test, see if you actually have stomach acid. I said, what test is that? He says, a functional test. So I'll give you 5 challenges with a little bit baking soda, and then see the graph, see your stomach. You put some little capsule, like a transmitter or something like that.
It's a tiny capsule that contains a pH-sensitive electrode, acid-alkali sensitive electrode, and a little teeny radio transmitter that transmits to a computer, and you can see right on the computer what is your stomach pH, and then what happens after you put in the bicarbonate soda.
Yeah. So,
You swallow?
I don't need the
Yeah.
test.
It's on a string, so you can bring it back out.
So I said, I don't need the test because that doctor told me I had too much acid. So he says, did he give you a test? I said, what test? I was with him only 5 minutes. Yeah. So he says, well, then you come to the clinic and let's do this test, and we'll find out something maybe different because it's been 2.5 years. So I did. I took that test, 1 baking soda challenge. Nothing comes out. It's supposed to go out within 20 minutes. Okay?
And she'd been off the medication for 2 months before the test. We insisted on that.
Yeah. And then the second challenge, baking soda, nothing goes like this. So 5 challenges, nothing. It's a straight line. And I said to Dr. Wright, I said, what does that mean? He says, meant that your stomach does not produce any acid, and you don't, so it does not digest and assimilate it into your body. Your cells are struck. They're robbing, yes, the tank was robbing all my nutrients and minerals and all that. I was just so sick, So I went to him, and then he told me he already knew that was my problem. I just proved to myself that that was my problem. Yeah. So it's like building a house with a foundation. There's no cement. What do you expect? But I did not know any better. So he's the one that actually saved my life, and I owe my life to him. This is at least what I can do is to help his clinic, to manage the clinic so that he can concentrate on his work.
So how old are you? How old are you?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I haven't told him. Yes.
Yes, there you go.
I get so excited. So anyway, that was when I was 45 years old. And then 5 years later, I was 50. So I said, hey, you're the one that put the bioidentical hormone together. Do you think I should use that? He says, of course. So I started using the bioidentical hormone when I was 50. That was 28 years ago. Wow.
So anyway, if we keep it within the range that belongs in our bodies are, quote, built, unquote, to contain that. We just simply don't want to go past that range, and unfortunately there's some programs of hormone replacement that go way past that range.
And could you speak again to the difference between starting as you're declining naturally, or when you wait to, a year or 5 years after menopause, what happens? You have to catch up, or is that just as effective or more dangerous?
No, it's not more dangerous at all. It just simply won't work unless one reactivates that acetylcholine system in the brain. That system has to be reactivated with the choline and the pantothenic acid.
Before you even start the bioidenticals?
Well, you just won't notice any benefit from them until you're activated. But you could start them, you just won't notice any benefit.
How long does that take about, approximately?
Yeah, what the research found when they used the patent medicine to stop the breakdown of acetylcholine, it was 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
Can I just say one thing on the evolution? To understand more about the decline of hormones, we started Paleolithic, okay? We're hunter-gatherers with a limited food supply.
the mandate of DNA is to replicate itself, all right? So what you do is you eliminate some of the males by fighting each other. So the best man wins, so to speak. And in a limited food supply area, you know, these women who are past having children, you want to get rid of them, all right? Because you want to have the survival of the young ones and the childbearing women. So the women, you know, their hormones really crash after childbearing years, and you get rid of them that way. You've already gotten rid of the men by them fighting each other, all right? And so then you have a group of people who can survive within a limited food supply. All right? So that's really why it happens, but we're now in a new place. We're past the Paleolithic times, and we would really like to have more, okay? So that's it.
How much methylfolate should we take then?
There is a wonderful laboratory test that will tell you and you and you and you how much is needed. It's totally individualized. Now here's the name of the test. You might want to write this down because it's hard to find. It's called neutrophilic, N-E-U-T-R-O, neutrophilic, P-H-I-L-I-C, neutrophilic, and then segmentation, which I think everybody can spell. S-E-G-M-E-N-T-I-T-A-T-I-O-N, neutrophilic segmentation index. Yep, you need another page now. There you go. Now, this is kind of an important test because it is individualized to that person. There's not many tests that are that way.
This is testing folate or methylfolate?
It tests if you had enough folate in your blood.
Not the acetylcholine.
Not at all. It's got nothing to do with that. N-U-T-R-O-philic, you got it. Neutrophilic segmentation. Segmentation index.
Meridian,
They're one of the very few who does it, yes.
Meridian, okay.
We do a lot of weird tests that are very, very useful.
Okay.
Okay, let me borrow that for you. Okay, so, about this test. Again, a genius biochemist discovered index. A genius biochemist discovered that when white cells, neutrophils are a type of white cell, inside the bone marrow are young, immature white cells, they actually have a different configuration or shape. And I'm not going to write on here very often, I'm going to leave that to Lori, but I'm going to draw you a picture. That's an immature white cell. It's DNA segments is what we're talking about. Arranged into 5 circles. An immature white cell, that's just the way it is. All right. Now, when that immature white cell is ready to graduate from high school or college, and what I mean by that is it's moving from the bone marrow over here to the bloodstream. The very last step before the body allows it to go is keyed by folate. The very last step. And what is that last step? Well, look at this. Instead of 5 rings that are smaller, we have 3 rings that are larger. Yeah. And so, why this happens? Nobody knows. Because it's the same blinking DNA. Nobody lost or gained any DNA. It just rearranged itself, like moving the chairs around the room. Now, who knows why nature designed this? But it's a fact. And that's what happens. So all we have to do is draw a blood test. And if we see 0% of these guys, 0, we know that person got enough folate. Because we're not seeing any immature ones anymore. But most of the time what we see instead is anywhere between about 5%. Now let me tell you about this poor woman who came in to see me a number of years ago. She was pregnant. She was several months into a pregnancy. she wanted to know if she had any chance of a child with a birth defect. And remember, folate and birth defects, everybody knows about that, I'm sure. We did the neutrophilic segmentation index for her, she insisted. Damn thing was 55% of neutrophils that had not collapsed from 5 rings into 3 rings. And yes, she had a kid with spina bifida. Spina bifida. The child was spina bifida.
It's where the spine is not
Cut.
fully connected.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's all because of lack of folate. And so when these turkeys in Washington, D.C. insisted to put folic acid into the food, they were doing 85% of the population some good because 85% can metabolize the stuff. They were actually making things worse for the other 15%. Yeah. So that test is a very, very good one. You can tell me, you, anyone can tell if they have enough folate. If they don't, it's going to come up higher than 0%. They should be all
The 3.
into 3, yes, the 3-week service. Okay, now I am going to get to men's hormones sooner or later, but I want to do a couple of other things first. One, let's cut the risk of everybody in here's heart attack and stroke from between 45 to 88%. Let's do that. Okay, now thank you for letting me use this. A study came out in the United States, which as usual was under-publicized, reported in the 1990s. 2,300 men, 1,800 women. It's what's called an observational study. They recruited people to get into the study. Oh, by the way, these are all, quote, older people, unquote. I don't mean 100 years old. I mean over 40, over 50. Okay, they recruited them to be in the study. And what did they do? Nothing! They just watched them for 9 years. What's going to happen here? That's called a study. Okay, they watched them. And what they reported at the end of the study is that the people who donated blood regularly had 45% less heart attack and stroke than the people who did not donate blood regularly.
So bleeding works.
45% more, 45% less. Oh, it's more than that, man. Let me get to it. All right, then there's another study from Finland. This one was men only. Who knows why? Again, they're all older men. And for whatever reason, they picked on 9 years again. I don't know why. It was published next year. Maybe they read the last study. I don't think so, because you got a plan on 10 years ago. But anyway, another 9-year study. In this study from Finland, the men who donated blood regularly had 88% less heart attack and stroke than the men who didn't. So it's 45% instead of study in the United States, 88% over there in Finland. Which tells us that the uterus has another function that nobody knows about to keep mother alive until the kids are grown up. She's donating blood once a month, isn't she? Mm-hmm. And us guys don't donate blood at all.
Leeches.
Blood bank. Well, leeches would do, yes. Or, what was Dracula doing anyway? Where is he living anyway? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how does this work? Now, there's a wonderful book on this. It's even in English that you can read. It's by Dr. Kenneth Kinsey, K-E-N-S-E-Y, Kenneth Kinsey. And his colleague, Dr. Young Cho. It's a Korean name, so Y-O-U-N-G-N-C-H-O. There's 2 books, actually. The more technical one is called The Origin of Atherosclerosis. And the second one is called The Blood Thinner Solution, but it is not talking about taking blood thinners. It's talking about thinning your blood out. Mm-hmm. There's 2 books by the same 2 authors. All right. Now, the reason this is...
In English, they use to take out blood.
Of course, and George Washington died of too much of that. Yeah. Really, that's in the history books. They did too much to him and there he went. Okay. Anyway.
We need to stop.
We do?
For 1 moment?
Just
Oh,
one second.
fine, 1 moment is fine.
While you're pulling that thought, I want to change batteries. You good?
What do you say?
He's actually change batteries.
Give it a second.
You can get some hormones to this camera.
No, you're going to get all charged up. By the way, while we're waiting, had you all heard that the Energizer Bunny was arrested? Come on, you hadn't heard?
How can I tell, what can I tell to you? You say B, vitamin B and peridroxy.
No, it's on the label of the health food store. It will say P5P. That's what it always says.
P5P.
It always says it's capital P, 5, and another capital P. It always says that. This is a 50, and you use it morning and evening.
50 milligrams.
And you've got a very, very good chance of getting rid of gestational diabetes within 2 weeks. I didn't say 100%. It was,
2 weeks.
yes, ma'am.
What you call it today?
Yeah.
What about somebody that's pre-diabetes? Does it help with something like that?
It's going to help a little bit because somebody who's pre-diabetic, that same pathway is disrupted. But you see, that's not the cause anymore. The cause really is the pre-diabetes itself. And that has to be gotten rid of to really get rid of that problem in the pre-diabetic individual. I'm sorry.
And
You
to
said
that,
for test people that are men that want to take testosterone, they gotta do something.
Well, what they got to do is they got to get their testosterone estrogen balance measured to make sure they're not making more estrogen than man should have. And if they are, those are the pre-diabetic and diabetic men. Yeah, so back to the diabetes again. All right, well, again, back to guy-type people and prostate cancer. Now, there are 3 minerals that are absolutely important to not getting prostate cancer. The first one I'm sure we're all aware of, that's zinc. That's been known about zinc in the prostate for a long time. And in fact, some researchers from the UK worked with men who had prostate cancer, and they gave them injections of zinc into the prostate, and they cured the cancer. Injections, I'm not kidding. Look, guys, if we can put up with a colonoscopy, we can put up with that, can't we? Yeah. And that was reported in one of the medical journals, and there's where it's laid ever since.
Injections of zinc into the prostate.
Yeah.
So you're going between the prostate, I don't think.
No, into the prostate, into the gland. That's what these guys did.
It saves you from dying.
Yeah, and they cured their prostate cancers. Okay, now we can't do that in the States. It's not approved by the FDA. Look, I heard a very, very smart lawyer tell me one time, you know, we ought to sue for the individual's right to take care of their own health in any way they want on grounds of Roe versus Wade. Think about that.
What was that?
Roe versus Wade. That was the court decision that said a woman has a right to decide about abortions. Well, if you got a right to decide about that, you should have a right to decide about anything else about your health, too. Yes. Or that lawyer. And if we can raise enough money, we're going to pay that lawyer to start a lawsuit. Seriously, but it takes, you know how much bucks it takes to keep a lawsuit.
quickly, for those who may want this injection, is it available in,
No.
in Canada or Mexico?
I don't know. I haven't investigated that. Yes, ma'am.
How about doing a male doing testosterone that has a large prostate? Is that okay?
You keep track of your PSA. And if you know if the PSA is continuing to rise, you may have a problem. If the PSA though stays level or goes up, down, then you haven't got a problem. Yeah, gotta keep track of that PSA. Yeah. Okay, the other 2 minerals that are very important for the prostate happen to be boron, of all things. Good old boron. Yeah, quite important for prostate. And selenium. Now, my favorite source of selenium is Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts.
What nuts?
Brazil nuts.
Brazil.
Some Australian researchers actually tested 200 micrograms of selenium versus 4 Brazil nuts a day. And what they did was to find that an equal amount of selenium was absorbed if you eat 4 Brazil nuts a day or take 200 micrograms of selenium. But what they found was even better is that the enzymes that are selenium dependent worked better in the people who ate Brazil nuts. Because, of course, the other things that work with selenium, is cofactors in the Brazil nuts, and they're not in the selenium supplement. So basically, this should cause the price of Brazil nuts to rise, but it hasn't yet. Those out there eating Brazil nuts, right? So that's the other one that's very important, again, for prostate health and keeping it as healthy as we can. So we want to be looking at, if we're a guy taking testosterone, and we've got ourselves into a gut median, but not too high, and we're not making too darn much estrogen, we want to be looking at that. We want to be looking at our blood counts. Yeah, check the PSA every once in a while.
What is PSA?
Oh, I'm sorry, prostate-specific antigen.
Okay.
And that's the one that guys are using to monitor whether they might be getting into prostate cancer.
Now they're not doing that so much anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
it's come back again, because the deaths went up for that.
Yeah. So we want to be doing those things. We want to be measuring, like I think I said, our testosterone metabolites and keep ourselves in the I got more anti-carcinogenic testosterone zone. And if we can do that with something as simple as eating coconut oil or swallowing olive oil or using niacinamide or NADH or watching our thyroids, why not? So, let's see. Anything else about testosterone at this point?
On those oils, olive oil especially, not heated.
Well, remember, olive oil shares with macadamia oil the ability to be heated 480 degrees before it oxidizes. So you can heat it some.
Some, but you don't want to, olive oil, you should never let it smoke.
And don't want to cook with it, basically. You can heat it up or something, but you don't want to cook with it. It's the main cooking thing. Yeah.
Did you say mac oil too?
Macadamia.
Yeah.
Both of them can get way up here before they start to oxidize.
Mercola says that olive oil is rancid as soon as it's pressed.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Well, I'm sorry. I got this great grandma who was able to die again. Yeah. I gotta admit, if you let it sit out in the air, as soon as it's pressed, it might oxidize. But if you put it very firmly into a bottle and seal the damn thing, it's probably okay.
You can smell it, really.
Yeah, you can smell it. Yes, ma'am.
Are all these little hints and techniques good for women to raise their testosterone? Will that work for us too?
That's not been researched. I don't know. No, what we can do though is she wants to know if women can raise their own testosterone with doing these things. I've not seen that researched. No.
So how do women raise their testosterone before we get up testosterone?
I haven't seen any research on that. I'm sorry. It raises men's testosterone, but I haven't seen it done for women specifically. It won't hurt. She has a good point. It won't hurt.
It's all good for the it's all good supplement.
Yeah, and it's good to detox, and it's good to do infill and sweat and all that, so yeah.
Please do. Please do. Go for it.
I just want to say that in 2 conferences that I went to, there was a presentation on progesterone deficiency in men. And it was interesting, it had to do with men who have progesterone deficiency. You know, I'm no expert at this stuff, but they have a tendency to bald because of anyway, to be bald and do not sleep as well. And then another one, this is Sinatra presented this one. If you fall when you have a brain injury, and I did this for a living, giving progesterone really helped both men and women heal from a stroke and reduced its neuroprotective. I mean, there are other things you have to do if you have a stroke, but this is what I heard.
Progesterone is good for stroke healing. I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so just wanted to add those 2.
Yeah, and also then, so male pattern baldness.
It's very common too.
Is male pattern baldness tied into no
Well,
progesterone?
men who have progesterone deficiency can lose some of their hair and have trouble sleeping. And progesterone is very calming, and it's I think 5-alpha reductase. What is the one that competes with that?
That's
for
what
hair loss?
that's what they try to inhibit. The 5-alpha reductase inhibitor that they give, though, unfortunately raises the risk of highly aggressive prostate cancer.
Which one?
The Rogaine?
The Rogaine and the other 5-alpha drug, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. There's something called the prostate cancer prevention trial. It involved a whole bunch of guys that went on for a number of years. And what was found, they were having people use either placebo or 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. And what they found is, sure enough, in the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, and that's patent medicine type, the risk of prostate cancer was 18%. The people who were on the placebo, their risk was 22%. Isn't that bad? Here comes the rest of the TV commercial. You just wait. The people who were on the Rogaine, the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, when they did get prostate cancer, they had a 35% of a highly aggressive prostate cancer, whereas the men on the placebo had from a 22 to a 24% increase in highly aggressive. So here comes my TV commercial. Take my 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, lower your risk of prostate cancer, and if you do get prostate cancer, you're more likely to die. Yeah. That's the problem with all those artificial molecules. They always do something that's at the bottom of the TV commercials for you.
Does that apply to finasteride?
Yes, sir. That's the one that was researched. Yes, higher risk of highly aggressive prostate cancer. Now, on the other side of things is a little bit of research I forgot. Just published this year, so I haven't had it seated in the memory sufficiently well. What was found is that men who took testosterone replacement had a lower risk of highly aggressive prostate cancer than men who did not. Men who took testosterone had a lower risk of highly aggressive prostate cancer compared to men who did not take testosterone. The wind is definitely changing in the research papers about testosterone. 10, 15 years ago, it was all, oh, testosterone bad for you, you shouldn't take any. And then here comes Professor Morgan Taylor, you probably heard the name, from some East Coast university, I forget which one. And Harvard, thank you. I escaped from there years ago. Well, look, you try going to a liberal East Coast university, you're glad to escape. Yeah. Anyway, here comes Professor Morgan Taylor, where he actually had men who had prostate cancer take testosterone, and he found that it did not speed up the growth of the prostate cancer. Yeah, that's Professor Morgan Taylor for you.
And very few people know about it, and it was based on a very small sample study. The one to originally take the testosterone away from men with prostate cancer was based on a sample of
Two
people.
That's not a study to consider.
No, it isn't.
Oh.
But the guy won the Nobel Prize.
For tricking everybody to think it too.
No, he didn't. It was tricky, just because it's small.
Yeah. And I think Professor Morgan Taylor is the one who dug into that and found it out. It was a two-person sample.
Right, it was. And we learned about that at A4M.
And what is written is not as a check, but anybody else.
Well, that one wasn't.
That one wasn't. No, that was back in the 1940s now.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you know, when someone gets a Nobel Prize, it's a wow, Nobel.
Yeah. Nobel Prize winner. Wow, big old scammer.
Okay, some other things. Anybody? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Would you please talk about autoimmune?
Oh, autoimmune, thank you, of course. Not a problem. Autoimmune. Yeah, we got the stomach here too. Okay. We'll just cover autoimmune quickly because it's quick to cover. And that is, let's see, for every one man with an autoimmune disease, how many women do we have? 6 or 7. Look it up in the textbooks. Nobody knows why, but nature's not fair, and women get more autoimmune disease than men by far. All right, when is that woman's autoimmune disease most likely to go away? During pregnancy. We all know about pregnancy, the remission of autoimmune disease. All right, so here comes Professor Nancy Sacote from UCLA. What does Nancy Sacote professor do? She rounds up 6 women with severe multiple sclerosis. Severe. They're in wheelchairs. They find it hard to manipulate things. They're bad off. Among the other tests she does on them, she does blood tests for autoimmune problems, and she does this and that. She scans their brains, MRI scan, and what she finds is here's all these MS lesions. All right, she then puts these ladies onto 8 milligrams of estriol a day. Estriol? When do women have their autoimmune disease remission? When they're pregnant. What comes out during pregnancy in great gobs? Estriol. So she puts them onto estriol, 8 milligrams a day orally. That was stupid, I'm sorry, Nancy. But it was because someone could get a thrombogenic disease sometimes by swallowing your estriol. She didn't even have to rub it in. But that's what they were doing at that time. Okay, so they took the 8 milligrams a day. It went 3-4 months. And the most striking thing was that they went back and did the MRI scan again, and 3/4 of the MS lesions had disappeared.
Wow.
Disappeared. Well, what they did is, for the sake of science, they went back off the estriol, and they scanned their brains again with an MRI, and the MS lesions all came back. So then they go back on the estriol again, and stay off estriol. And this time, their lesions, they did not totally disappear now. Remember, they're down by a big percent, but they didn't totally disappear. So they stayed away. Now, that's Professor Sakote. There's others who have found that if you just look at the cells of the immune system, the T cells, the helper T cells, the suppressor T cells, and so forth, if you just look at the suppressor ones and the helper ones, they're different species, they're good guys and bad guys of T cells insofar as autoimmunity. If you just look at them and you put those cells into a solution with some estriol, guess what? They start to behave themselves. And the bad guys switch to being more good guys. That's why it goes away during pregnancy. Now,
It became good by mixing with what?
estriol. The same hormone is produced in large quantities during pregnancy. Now, that's not all. There's more good news. And that is, back in 1980, Professor Sakote did her thing in the year 2004, something like that. But back in 1980, some other researchers drew blood from men who had autoimmune disease and women who had autoimmune disease. And then they put them in a little cell culture and they added HCG. Now, HCG is also made by the placenta in enormous amounts. I think we all know that. All right? They added the HCG. The autoimmune men, it didn't make any difference at all. Men generally don't grow placentas, do they? No. But the autoimmune ladies, again, they found a very significant shift away from autoimmunity among their white cells. So, when we're treating somebody down in clinic for autoimmunity, they're usually ladies, because many more ladies than men get this problem. And so we give them a high normal amount of estriol. How do I know what a high amount of normal is? By taking this much and measuring it in the urine. That's what I know, how I know. I can't just guess with that woman. But I want high normal, because high normal is going to give her a better chance of getting out of the autoimmunity. Number 2, we use HCG. Yeah, HCG. And fairly big doses, and I'll tell you why about those fairly big doses shortly. But we use fairly big doses, and their autoimmune symptoms either disappear or they get a lot better. I'd say in most cases it's a lot better. It's not disappearing, but they're a lot better. And all we got to do is simulate pregnancy, and that's not dangerous to do if you're measuring the estrogens, making sure the estrol isn't going so high. Now, HCG we don't have to worry about at all. Why? Because there have been studies, among other things, we all took a bath in HCG when we were inside mom, didn't we? And hopefully we emerged okay because of that. We think we did. All right, but there's also a study where some guys volunteered to take either 100,000 units of HCG or 150,000 units of HCG in one shot. Nothing bad happened. No kidding. They took a big old shot of HCG and they're feeling fine, thank you. So HCG appears to be something that is very, very safe.